What's a girl to do? Lying on my bed staring into the blue. Unrequited, terrifying. Love is driving me a bit insane. Have to get this off my chest. I'm telling you today that when I talk to you, won't you barrage right through and shoot right out through my heart? And I sound like a known, but don't you feel it? So confess I loved you from the start. Confess I loved you, just thinking of you.
I'm muted. I was saying it was a funky beat. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Jake Don't Draw live experience. It's a new era, a new dawn. Probably not gonna. Well, actually, I am gonna stream more. At least this week. I have a lot of plans here. Welcome in, everybody. Let me say hi real quick. A new dawn, a new day, a new life. Hello, Nightlock, Taboo, Griffin, and Emily, and Rory, Katie. What's up, Shen, and who? What's that? Shoko Chattington. Kind of the craziest, sickest name ever. It's like some sort of... I don't know what that is. It's fucking badass, though. Hello from New Zealand. Hello from an unspecified bunker underground. We staying safe out here. Hello, everybody. All right, we got a big docket, a big old docket today. We got all sorts of stuff to talk about. Let me organize some stuff around on my screen. We just straight chilling. Ain't no natural light in here. This is pure bioluminescence. I'm emitting light. We got all sorts of stuff in. All right, so it's an art history stream, all right? I'm not painting, I got a bunch of stuff to talk about from the past few months that I haven't talked about. I gotta address the controversies. I don't photosynthesize. Get in those thighs. That's where I went immediately, but I was like, that doesn't really make sense. So, you know, I'll keep workshopping that one. I'll keep thinking about it. Hello, Jean-Paul, Catter. I'm proto. No, we're gonna just drop it. So, it's been like 2 months since it was an art history stream. About 2 months ago, I think right after the last one, I went down to Lime Academy and I saw their exhibition of they had a bunch of 19th century drawings they were showing, so that was cool. And I have some friends down there that teach, so I hung out and saw the type of stuff they're working on. So I want to talk a little bit about that. I also am just going to give you guys an update on what's going on with the content, just because, you know, hopefully we don't get any stream crashing today. That would piss me off. That would really piss me off. I put in a bunch of work to try to fix the crashing issues that we had a few months ago, And it's not my fault. It's NVIDIA's fault, and they can Sugma. One thing I do want to announce right here: if we do get crashing, it's not a big deal because I can I can restart it and I'll just run the stream off of my CPU and it'll be fine. One thing I do want to announce: big news! Big news! Open critique stream this Saturday, okay? On Saturday, this Saturday, 2 p.m. EST. Look it up in whichever fairyland time zone you live in. That is the 28th of June, 2025. I'm doing a critique stream. I will open a thread in the Discord with some details. You got that? Okay. You can submit whatever you want, and I will critique it. And I can give you advice and answer questions. Tell me about your girlfriend issues. Tell me about your familial issues. More importantly, tell me about your art, okay? So I'll be opening a thread in the Discord where you can make probably your own thread. I'm probably going to do a forum thing so everyone can just make their own thing. That way they can put multiple photos into it and it'll be nice and organized. If you are using references, please put the references in the critique thread. If you are, if it's some sort of narrative thing and you have, a story, you got to tell me the story because that's what matters. Ask specific questions. Don't just send a drawing and be like, what's wrong with it? If I don't have any reference, if I don't know what the narrative is, it doesn't make any sense to critique it, right? What's the critique on? It's on anything. All right? Please specify if boobs can be in the painting for crit. Yeah. Just DM those ones. Just kidding. Yeah, artistic nudity is fine as long as it's not sexualized. I show all sorts of nude, academic work on stream, and that's fine. I have a YouTube rep now. They gave me a YouTube rep a few months ago, and she really helped me out and got some of my videos undemonetized. Undies, really. So that's huge. So I have someone I can help with that stuff, so I'm not worried about it anymore. So boobs, welcome. Butts, welcome. Just, no holes. Let's leave the holes out. Censoring breasts, literally 1984. I know, right? So there are some messages that show up on the stream chat, and they're not in my Mr. Streamer chat on my monitor over here. I don't know why. You're shadow banned, okay? So that will be there. We have a challenge going on in the Discord right now. It's kind of fire-ass jazz. Yeah, we have a challenge going on in the Discord right now. It is plants and flora. Next one, I'm not 100% sure. I know people have been asking for composition. We do need another composition one. I also think we just need another full figure from photo reference. It's been a while for that. I really want to do a full figure painting. This kind of just pulls me into the next topic. So let me just top this off here. Let me just wrap this one up, shrink wrap it. Critique thread. After the stream is done, I will make it in the Discord and I will send out a notification with the details and how you can submit to that. Okay? Saturday, 2 p.m. EST. I will send a link in there that is auto converts in Discord to your time zone. If you're not in the Discord, you can join it in the link below. Okay? Very good. It's in the description. How long have you been drawing and painting? About 6 years now. Quite old. I'm quite old at this point. So, what I wanted to get into on the next topic here is, well, I want to make a full figure painting. It's just like, it's a 24-hour, for me, that's how much time I'd like to spend on a figure painting, at least 20 hours or so, if I'm going to do, a full-scale one at like 30 inches tall or whatever. And like with this, I'm working on this floral painting too. And for the challenge that we got going on right now, and can I show you guys? Yeah. It's just tough for me to kind of manage the stuff right now. So I got a video coming out. I don't know when it's coming up. I am working on the video again. So I was working on this video in January, and then I stopped working on the video to make the website and work on other stuff. I have been working on the video consistent for the past week. I am trying to get it finished as hard as I can because I really want to. It's a big video and it's really fucking complicated, and I'm really, really excited about it, and it's really good, but it's going to take me, a week to finish the Blender project, and then I need to shoot it, which is going to be really difficult, and then editing is going to be really difficult. So it's probably still at least 3 weeks out, which kind of sucks. And I'm really struggling with that because I'm trying right now to make. Right now, I think the way I'm trying to balance things is I spend one day on Blender all day working on the video type stuff, and then the next day I make a reel, and normally I have a few hours. It takes about 4 to 6 hours to make a reel, so then I'll spend the rest of my time that day working on 3D modeling stuff. Just keep pushing that forward. But it's challenging too because I'm got to work on the Discord challenges, just not because I'm obligated to the Discord. I mean, I am a little bit, but I genuinely like it. But also, I'm trying. It's tough because I'm not just a content creator. If I was just a gamer content creator or something like that, I could just make videos all day long, and that's all I have to do is just worry about content. But I'm an artist, and I'm very much so a student, and I still have a lot of stuff to learn. So it's really difficult for me to balance that. I need to keep learning and pushing this stuff in order to make new videos. And I feel really down about my art and really bad about my art when I don't get the opportunity to do that, because I felt really rusty, and it's just really mentally draining and difficult not being able to keep up with that. And I also never even make any personal art. So after this Blender video is out, I definitely want to start making some videos that don't take me 3 months to make. I would love to be able to make videos again that only take me a few days to make or a week to make. So I don't know exactly how to balance these three aspects of my life between content, studying, personal art, and then the short and long form content too. So I don't really know exactly how to balance this type of stuff. And also streaming too. It took me about 5 hours of work to prepare for this stream today. It's just always a never-ending thing. So I'm just, streaming is the hardest job in the world, I will say. Obviously, but really, yeah, I'm just not sure exactly how to balance that yet. And that's the reason why I disappear, because the type of person I am is I just like to obsess about one thing and really hone in on a detail or not a detail, but just one project, and just do it until I drive myself fucking completely insane and go mad, and then finish it and then go to the next one. It's really hard for me to balance 3 or 4 things at the same time and be I'm going to give 2 hours here, I'm going to give 2 hours here, I'm going to give 2 hours here, because it just breaks the flow, and it's tough. So why not let somebody manage the Discord? I mean, there's not a whole lot of management work that goes into the Discord. Oh, that's just the Ludwig anthem. The Ludwig anthem. I'm just, the Discord stuff is just working on the challenges. I'm trying to spend time to work on the challenges because it's stuff that I want to do to get better at art. That's fucking loud. There we go. So yeah, I don't know if anyone has suggestions. Anyways, if I like some of the content in the stream too, I'm thinking why don't I just, edit it with some simple editing and throw it up on the channel. It's really hard for me to do that too, because then it's I have this type of content that I work for 2 months on, and then it gets posted next to a video that's stream clippings, and it's and it's edited. That's what the ARC video was supposed to be, a Voidzilla-esque one take, just shooting it and calling it done, but it didn't exactly turn out that way, because I want to make stuff that feels cohesive as art across the channel. I don't want someone to come on and be whoa, this is a really awesome video that I spent 3 months on, and then they go to the next video and it's kind of shitty, or it's just mid. So it's a really tough standard that keeps getting higher and higher to live up to for myself. So I definitely need to address that and fix it. That being said, I can't fix it until I do this one last really hard project. I'm very active on the Discord, but that's just because I'm sitting on my computer with Blender open or DaVinci Resolve open all day, and I just have the Discord on my screen on my other monitor right here. So it doesn't take like a whole lot of time out of my day. And sometimes that stuff really does help me with like the research. That being a mother was the hardest job in the world. Single mother is actually right below streamer. Common misconception though, common misconception. I'm reading chat here. Work 3D modeling. We all scream in unison. Have someone edit your videos. That's the other thing too. I think there's a lot of difficult stuff with this. And I'll finish this topic, and then we'll move on to the Lime Academy's drawings. I want to show you guys that we took some pictures of. People will just be like, well, just hire someone to do all the work. And it's like, well, then you have to pay someone like a full-time wage, you know? And I don't make them, you know, YouTubers don't make that much money unless if you're posting like every day and you get like 100,000 plus views on that every day, then you can afford that. But, you know, it costs at least $300 to have somebody edit a video. And let me tell you guys, I get about $3 per 1,000 views on YouTube. So if I get 100,000 views, that's $300. That covers the editor, right? So pretty much have to be like closer to like the million per video mark in order to like, or at least like a few 100,000 views per video to really pay for that. So, you know, it's kind of complicated. Also, it's just really hard for me to work artistically with anyone because, you know, it's just hard to find somebody that you vibe with and that you can expect a certain level of quality and polish. When I was working with an editor, and I was working with a really great one, I really like, Toxicquid's a great guy, but I just, it's hard for me to let go, and I have certain artistic visions, and it's hard to deal with that. You know, I would take the stream, and then I'd scan through the whole screen, and I would make these super long lists of every timestamp that would like a suggested cut and edit. So I'd still end up spending like 2 hours just to, you know, get all the information, the stream clips ready, and then send it to the editor so he can spend, you know, 10 hours or 6 hours clipping it together. Yeah. So I don't know. Planning on getting the halftone course? Yeah, hell yeah, guys. You know, halftonestudio.art. Free references. I wrote a guide on there. It's pretty good. We wrote some great articles on there as well. Some super good information on halftonestudio.art. And me and Ramon made a full course. And that's a nice segue here. Well, wrong niche. Yarn and fashion content makes way more. Oh yeah, I actually bet that's true. Some it totally depends on where you are. Apparently some people are out there making like $15 per 1,000 view. Which is fucking insane. I think art is just young, you know, and I kind of lean towards more of like the gamer degenerate crowd too. So that you know, that audience itself is probably a little bit younger as well, or you know, around like probably my average audience member I would guess is like 16 to like 25, and then it is a really wide range, so it's not super concentrated. So there are a lot more people on the top end of that as well, and you know, 50 years old or so. I think that's 100% true, but yeah, art does not make any money, which is funny. I walked by a meet and greet for a rug making YouTuber, and there was at least 1,000 people lined up. What the fuck? Rug making YouTube is huge right now, guys. Rug making YouTube is massive. All right. Yeah, I don't really care about money that much as long as I am in, you know, like a stable position so that I can keep creating really cool, you know, really cool videos that are bigger projects. That's where I see myself. I don't want to just push slop. Yeah, I'm really excited by this Blender video, and I just like making videos, and I like finding the story as I go. I think that's really it's really fun and it's really exciting, and I love the feeling of just getting like degenerately obsessed and sucked into something. That's my favorite feeling in the world. That's what I've been chasing on Blender for months now, and it's really good. So I went to let's change the topic a little bit. That's the channel update. Oh, actually, I have one more thing to say about that. So, this past weekend, I went to a exhibit at New Salem Museum. Let me grab a painting here that I made. It's in Western Massachusetts. My friend there is a director, and he invited me to come and see the exhibit that they have right now. They just did a big competition, just like very similar to ARC, but without all the bullshit and corruption. They did a really good job managing it, and they have a beautiful exhibition there right now, which was super fun to see. All of the top artists from around, really all the big names on Instagram for the academic world, and a lot of artists that I hadn't heard of that made absolutely incredible pieces. Really fun to see, and I really enjoyed it. And it made me think too, because it's just a competition about this wasn't categorized or anything like that. You could just submit whatever art, as long as it's representational mostly. And it really got me thinking too, with like the super academic people that come out of like ateliers, the type of stuff you see is really just like the normal academic realist painting, but then with like some crazy colors slapped on top, or like some sort of article of clothes that's super neon, or it'll be a realist portrait, but then just having painted with all sorts of crazy colors. And to me, like, I don't, and also there's this huge range of art too, from people that I'd never heard of. There's really cool landscapes. There's more narrative pieces, more heavily designed pieces and compositions. And it was just really fun to see and think about, what did I want to vote for and give my award to? Or there was a People's Choice Award, so I could submit a vote. And it got me really thinking about, what I want my art to look like, or what personal art should look like beyond academic art, and how to weigh these things. And it's just really interesting to see. Wait, let me see if I can pull up this New Salem Museum, this competition. Move over to here. Yeah. Should I put this? I'm gonna put this right over here. Okay. So this was the winning painting by Elizabeth Beard. Ramon loved this painting. I really like this painting too. I'm not gonna, these are all not gonna be super heavy in any critiques here, because they're all fantastic paintings in this show. Really interesting painting won this Director's Choice Award too. I met Michael Klein. Michael Klein's the director out there. And there's just a really great wide range of fantastic paintings here. I think the one that I gave my People's Choice Award to was this one, Jose Lopez Ferreira. Really beautiful draftsmanship, and I think just nice composition, and I really like the stretching of the legs here. For me, it was a painting that there were other paintings that had better color, or other paintings that had more interesting themes to me, but this was a painting that balanced everything out really well. I like this kind of characterization. The drawing and the painting is fantastic. It's really, really good. The composition's really solid. Everything just works, I think, to a really strong level in this painting, and I really enjoyed seeing that. That's what I gave my vote to. This is, just another part of me thinking a little bit more about, studying on my own and improving, and wanting to make sure I have time for that, and making my own art, and how I can integrate that into content too. It's a nice reminder to see, all the things that are possible, and to not get super stuck in the traps of academic work forever. Because that's certainly not what I want to do. And I think there is some sort of restriction that can come from studying at an atelier for 10 years or whatever. And yeah, all these paintings are so much better in person, really. So I did join their portrait pose too, and I painted a portrait. Let's see if I can get it without glare. And I'm really happy with how that came out. That was only it was a 3-hour pose, so about 2.5 hours of painting time because there's a model break every 20 minutes or so. And yeah, definitely the fastest and honestly one of the most accurate and best paintings I've made, certainly from life. I always really struggle a lot when I go to the life painting where I live locally, and I'm always really frustrated. And I never feel like I can get the colors right or the drawing right. But this was a beautiful studio with a giant north-facing skylight. I've been looking at art all day, surrounded by some really good artists, and I, really felt good and wanting to create in that moment. And I just vibed. I wasn't thinking super hard about technique. And yeah, it was a really fun experience, and I made a good painting out of it. I think the environment that you have, it makes so much of a difference. If you're just inside your bedroom all the time and looking at random stuff online, it's really easy to get tunnel visioned and stuck on everything. Everything feels like this insurmountable obstacle. And I think that's like especially true when you talk about when I talk about the French Academy stuff. There's so much that we get stuck on, or that I get stuck on, that you would just blow right past if you were surrounded by a bunch of good artists. If you had the Louvre, right down the street or whatever, you had classical sculptures all over the city. There's so many challenges that you could just blitz right by. If you're looking at classical Greek sculpture all the time, you're going to learn like 80% of what you need about anatomy without really learning, having to bother all that much with, learning all the muscles and bones, which certainly, varying artists have different thoughts on that, but certainly pretty important. In the same way that you're going to learn the material difficulties, or what pencil should I use, if you are surrounded by people that are just using very simple materials to make really great art. So definitely got me thinking a lot about the type of work that I do. And I was really happy with that. Good morning, Philip. It's the 80-20 rule. Oh, and also, too, speaking of material stuff, this is, I prepped a linen canvas, and normally I've been making really coarse linen canvases. That's what I've enjoyed painting on. I've had good success. I prepped one, and I forgot it at home. So I had to ask Michael Klein, the director there, if he had anything to give me. And he gave me, this is, I don't know if you guys can see the texture there. Let's see if I can focus on here. It's not enough light, I don't think. There's it's like literally like the type of plastic you would tape to your wall in the bathrooms to give you a backsplash. It's PVC plastic. This is just a sheet of plastic, and you buy a big 4x8 sheet for about $50 or so, and then I sanded it, no primer, sanded it with 180 grit. This is what he gave me, with a piece of 180 grit, and he was like, just scuff it up. And this was a fantastic surface. This was so much fun to paint on. It felt really good. I thought it was going to be way too slick and smooth. Not at all. I'd probably hit it with maybe some 80 grit, so it's a little bit more coarse. If I do this myself, which I definitely will. Pretty cheap, if you're buying a big 4x8 sheet for $50, then that's probably $2 or $3 a surface, which is definitely a very reasonable price. And it's plastic, so it'll last forever. He says he normally does prime it. I didn't feel any need to prime it, but I definitely would try that out. Yeah, really, really cool surface. That was fun. It's way better than now I'm fuck the coarse canvas that I've been working on. The problem with super coarse canvas, and this is what I like, but you have to spend a whole session of painting just slapping an insane amount of paint on it to fill up the grain. And then now I'm getting close to the point where I have a good amount of paint on this, and I just want to scrape it all down with a razor blade so it's smooth. It'll keep the color inside of the grain, so it'll look very similar. I won't lose the drawing, but it will be a smooth surface. And then you can paint on top of it more. I just got paint in my hand. It's not dry. So yeah, that's a fun little art tip. All right, so me and Ramon, we went to Lime Academy together. And they had a show of 19th century drawings, and I wanted to show you guys some of them and kind of point out some interesting differences between French and American drawings. And these are just really interesting, fun drawings in general. First, they had this painting here that was really fun to look at, really cool painting. Drag a few images in here. This is from one of the Boston schools, the more like Impressionist Boston schools. So in the 19th century, Americans weren't that great at art. Pretty much all of them went to France to study. Some of them, went to Europe or whatever. Jake, I just noticed your Discord has an age restriction. I want to submit my art for the critiques, but I'm 15. I am sorry. Very sorry. There's an age restriction on there. Jake, can I have your opinion in the bad called modern art, contemporary conceptualism? I don't know what that means. I'm not anti-modernism. So the American artists, they weren't quite as good. Pretty much everybody went to France to study, and then they came back. Sometimes they went to other places too, like the Royal Academy, and there's one in Belgium, and they went to the one in the UK as well sometimes. So they came back, and you get American artists like Tarbell. What's that guy's? I think it's Dumont. There's these French schools, or these artists that train in France come back, and they open up a school in Boston, and this kind of leads to the Boston Impressionists, with Paxton as well. And they taught some pretty good artists. This is untitled. I don't know if this is exactly from the Boston school, but I would be very surprised if it wasn't, or at least nearby, or somebody connected to that. And it's a great painting. You can tell it's a little bit more of that kind of impressionist, though, because of you can just see kind of how the color is dotted on there. Everything's a little bit softer. There's not like a lot of hard edges. There's definitely some hard edges in here, but it's very dotty with the color. This is a fantastic painting. Just not quite as kind of thick and sculptural and carved out. You normally see some bigger planes, some harder edges from some of the French artists, and generally you don't see this type of technique quite as much. But a really great painting and fun to see to open the show. Let's see, I have some close-ups here. You can see how thick that paint is too on there. It's pretty cool. It's a really nice color as well. It's a great painting. And it's actually just serves as like a nice diagram of a painting too. The shadow, and then you have like this transitioning tone, then you have one more tone, then you have one more tone, and then you have the highlight. Pretty typical stuff. Some areas where it's like thicker here, and then thinner where you're kind of getting into these halftone areas. Yeah, very cool. Let me drag in a couple more paintings. What about Russian art? Russian academies are closer to the old French stuff. They were very intertwined in the 19th century, and a lot of back and forth was happening. I mean, the Russians were intentionally trying to copy the West in the early and mid part of the 19th century, and they're very successful at that by the end of the 19th century. But the Soviets kind of, they had their own ideas about art, and so, Soviet realism took over. I still think like the Imperial Academy or the Repin Academy is closest to 19th century training you'll get, but it definitely is not the same. It's pretty different in a lot of ways. Let me pull up. So here is a drawing. So most of the drawings in the show were from the Art Student League in the 19th century, which is a New York City school that's still around today. This one was from the French Academy. Some of them were from Americans who went to France and sent their drawings back, and that's why the Art Student League has them now. So this is a very typical French drawing, like just all around in the 80s or 70s, maybe, probably 80s, I would guess. Towards the end of the century, they started filling in their backgrounds black a little bit more commonly, but they did it in the 70s as well. And, you can tell how simple and broad it is in here. Let me pull some close-ups. Yeah, big, simple, broad reads. The modeling's very simple. There's not a lot of hatching, just hatching here, here, here. And there's areas that are really dark or accented or just need a little bit extra. Most everything is done with a stump and charcoal, and Conte mixed into Conte mixed into the charcoal and applied in. I don't think Kanye's into mixing anything anymore. Yeah, really nice, broad modeling, these dark accents with the Conte, super typical French stuff. And the American drawings I immediately noticed were very, very different, and it's super interesting. Very fascinating. Let me pull one up. So they had a bunch of these by this guy named Tweedy. This is one of them. Kind of a dark image. Let's pull it into Photoshop here. Ton of these by Tweedy. And it's funny because I think these drawings are like kind of trash. Just compared to stuff at the time, they're really not that great. And so from far away, you're like, whoa, that's a great looking academic drawing. That's like very typical, looks just like the French stuff. But when you get up close, you'll notice that these are pretty different. And again, this one was made at the Art Student League. You'll see that like these edges are a lot softer. The hatching doesn't feel as impactful. The tones are just they're not quite as crisp and clear. There's not a strong contrast, a lot lighter. It feels a lot more timid in a lot of ways. Let me pull some others in here. Ramon took these photos. Yeah, like this doesn't feel like this side is very well carved out. This feels nice. This belly area with this nice accent here and some stump dragging out, but it doesn't have that nice punchy quality. And it gets this is what I call soupy values, where stuff just bleeds into each other. It's not very segmented. It doesn't feel like they're carving out planes. That's what I like to call soupy. It just doesn't feel strong. And I think the face is kind of a mess. Yeah, it's probably just too dark or not unified enough. Like the contrast here makes her feel like her skin is much darker, which, yeah, I think it's too dark. I'm not 100% sure what's causing that. You can also see the stump piles look kind of weird. I just filled this in with brown. The stump piles look kind of weird. So let me see if I can find another one that demonstrates this better, actually. There's a French one. I think Ramon didn't take pictures of all of the... So here's one. This one is a really great drawing. I'll leave the peen out. I think this one... Oh, he took a picture of the... this is by Dumond. Okay, this guy studied directly at Academy Julian. That's why this is a lot better, a little bit more formy. Still, some people in France did draw like this, especially at Julian's, where instead of using the stump so much, they use the charcoal a lot more, and they do a little bit more hatching. They use, I think, a harder charcoal, a thinner charcoal, and they get more precise, smaller lines. And that carried into the American stuff a little bit more. One thing that I noted, too, is... I don't think Ramon took pictures of the ones I'm thinking of. Yeah, I think he mostly captured the French one. Which is a man after my own heart. This is another American one. Really nice one, actually. I liked both of these a lot. Really nice, a feeling of light and dark. The movement and flow in this one is actually incredible. This is really nice weaving of rhythm here. Really nice weaving of rhythm here. How this flows into here, how this flows out back and around. This wraps in, this comes out, and then it flows out to the foot. And this carries off of this rhythm, which carries off of this. Like, this is spectacular. Everything in this figure feels like it's just flowing, gracefully moving down. It's really nice of fitting in forms. Same thing with her here. And the modeling's really nice too. They are using mostly just vine charcoal. I don't think they use the Conte charcoal in America quite as much. And what I did notice too is the lines on all of these, the outlines especially, very, very thin. And this goes for French stuff too. It's a little bit more varied in French stuff. And there's a lot more hatching in these as well in the American stuff. Some of them were almost entirely hatched with very little stumping and just using vine charcoal. And you can compare that to some of the French work that they had. This was one of my favorites from the show. As soon as I find it. This wasn't it. I just wanted to show a little bit more of that hatching, less stumping. Ramon, where's the picture? Oh, wait, it's after this one. Oh, here it is. Oh. There we go. This was my favorite from the show. It's like a quarter finished drawing. I looked at this, and this one, it says like unknown on the placard. It says artist unknown, possibly 19th century American or French. It's 1,000,000% French. I guarantee you that. And it's charcoal and paper. It's Conte mostly on paper and charcoal as well. And you can tell this one is put together primarily with the stump. Some moderately thin outlines here, especially right in these areas. But like, this is just straight up carving with a bunch of charcoal and powder loaded up onto that stump, knocking stuff out, really just working from top to bottom, modeling pretty broadly too, just taking in the shadow area under this rib cage. You can feel some movements around the arch of the rib cage like this. There's some movement around the chest in here. This is really nicely modeled. Let me grab a... Finishing from top to bottom is typical work. You get these nice dark accents that carve inwards here. These dark accents too. This guy doesn't use the Conte all that much, but all this type of like grainy, darker stuff is him kind of working in with a Conte, a soft one, a pencil. But most of this is coming just from dipping the stump into the charcoal. He doesn't have the stump patch on this page. It's a really, really, really nice drawing, really beautiful, and just a ton of fun to see. Also, there was this great one as well. So the reason why it's French is because you know, these American ones, like I explained earlier, they have a lot weaker values for the most part. A lot of them rely on just vine charcoal. So this is like really spindly, thin vine charcoal that they're putting in the corner here to load onto their paper stump. There's less, hard carving out of the planes. And you can tell that this is just vine charcoal because it's very gray. It's not like sticking to the paper quite as well. A lot of the American ones relied on hatching a lot more. This one didn't. But overall, it's just not as bold as this type of work, which is much stronger, much darker, much more immediate in that working from top to bottom. It's very clear to see. This is another French one from Academy Julien. It's another French one from Academy Julien, and this is where Bouguereau and Tony Robert Fleury. And this one's kind of interesting because it's actually pretty much entirely hatched. I can't believe he's just talking to us and sitting there right now. I don't know, it's just so weird. I'm right behind you, Maya. Turn around. This one is entirely hatched, actually, which is, some people just like to work this way, and this one is beautiful. Like, it's a super form-based hatching. Like, all these hatch marks wrap around these forms really well. They're going down the side of the face, carving into the cheek here, underside of the nose. Like, this is just really spectacular drawing. And every little base of this is hatched like that. It's a very form-based. Look at his torso. It's crazy. Like, that is just... It's really hard to like balance out the values of the drawing while also hatching so rigorously and also like so charismatically. You can see how all these lines are wrapping around the form of the rib cage. They're cutting inwards, and then the values are pretty well balanced out. It's not easy to balance those values without a stump or something like that. So really nice drawing. Also just really charismatic and nice motion throughout it. It's another French one. Let's see what else we got here. Oh, there's this fantastic painted study too. We have a wider shot of this. I'll keep the brightness filter on. This painting is just it's incredible. This one is from France as well, of course, and you can see how thick the paint is. How charismatically it's applied. I mean, look at this lip. It's just like one color, black here, and then this really like super strong light pink on the bottom. These nice cool tones as you approach the edge of it. And then you have these warm shadows underneath, and everything is painted pretty much with an equal amount of thickness. There's not some sort of reliance on transparency. Some of these shadows, it looks like there was a brown wash put in for the shadows first, which some people did just by preference, not by any sort of doctrine or anything like that, but some people just like to work that way, and it's a great way of working. And you can see some of that kind of transparency. Very thick canvas too. This is a pretty coarse canvas. It's not overly smooth. This background is put in very directly. And then, again, you just have this nice, like... And there's, like, a lot of glare on this painting, so it's taken at some weird angles. But you get these nice light planes on top of the rib cage where it's sticking out here. And then the rib cage carves down, under, and around. And then where the belly pokes out a little bit, you get some light again, too. And you just get this fantastic, like, weaving of forms. How these connect inwards into each other. It's freaking beautiful. I just want to check something real quick. I had my music audio on the same track as my microphone. Okay. That's just a note for me, which I'm just having a little bit of fun with a little bit of audio mixing. Yeah, really nice stuff. I don't have too much more to talk about with this. Just some cool stuff that I want to show you guys. Here's another one of those Tweeties that's, it has like that great same impression from far away. That's like, it's super fun to look at, and you're like, wow, it's so incredible. And then you get up close, and it's just not quite as strong, like... It's a lot weaker. The values are kind of pushed together. There's no Conte being used because it's just all like one very gray value, and then this is just the vine charcoal being hatched back in to make it darker. It's nowhere near as impactful. It's a really great drawing, and they have that like top 70% done where it gets that big impression, but then that kind of final sculptural quality isn't quite there. Does thick equal good? Depends on if you're dating or painting. In painting, well, both, yes. But with painting, I mean, really you can paint thin or thick, it doesn't matter. But people do have it's just a general misconception that all painting is like super thin or super like perfectly smooth canvas. Pretty much all painting throughout history has a good amount of texture on it. Even when you're in the museum and you can't really see a lot of texture, that's just because they're using a type of lighting on it that kind of flattens it out. If you take lighting and you put it right from above so it shines downwards, you'll be able to see all that texture much easier. And pretty much everyone painted with incredible amounts of texture. I mean, of course, you have some people, you go back to the Renaissance or something like that. A lot of those are very thin. That's because they used to work with tempera and stuff like that back then. And they tended to work a lot more washy. Rubens painted quite thick, but he also used a lot of medium. He mixed a bunch of thinner and oil into his paint, so it was very kind of flowed together very well. But the guy painted like an absolute beast, and he, in general, you just need to put down a lot of material on the surface in order to cover it properly. And most people have issues with being too timid about it rather than the other way around. Did they copy from photos back then? I actually have an interesting bit about that that's going to be in the ChatGPT segment in a few minutes here. I should have put a note on the screen that's coming up. Guys, I'm going to talk about ChatGPT in a second here. Towards the end of the ChatGPT segment, I just was doing some research and preparing for that segment this morning, and I actually found some really interesting articles about photography and the use of photography in art in the 19th century. So I want to read some of that stuff to you guys later. Ferris Bueller has a beautiful scene that really encapsulates the reason why I love oil painting. If you know, you know. Who's Ferris? Wait, Ferris Bueller? That's a movie, right? Yeah, it's a movie. What painting are you talking about? Okay. Just some really fun, great paintings to look at. Super cool. There was a Prix de Rome winner, too. This guy's, I think he was a Prix de Rome winner. But this is just like peak academic painting, 19th century. You can feel how all this stuff is pulling downwards and inwards and slotting in. And there's just so much motion that pulls through this. The lighting is all very characteristic and strong. Let me... a bit of brightness on this. And it's just wonderfully subtle. All of this is just the light of the paper, the white of the paper. This is all just the white of the paper, and then there's just rounding where it needs to be, and it's so effective. How subtle this is, and you can feel it pushing in. Same, likewise with this. This is the deltoid coming in from the shoulder. This is the front of the shoulder, and then this is the top of the shoulder. Blah blah blah. Wrapping around. There's the pecs coming out. Everything in this image just wraps and flows through it incredibly well. All the light is spectacularly managed. This is crazy good painting. Crazy good painting. You can feel this collarbone coming up, the deltoid coming in. Really nice. Hands are good. These are not on the Discord. I haven't gone through them properly yet. I don't know what the Ramon's photos. I'm sure he's totally fine with me posting them, but I can try to get them up somewhere for you guys. I didn't really want to go to Lime Academy, take pictures of all of their paintings, and then just rip them right onto my website. But it's really, this isn't their art, actually, now that I think about it. It's the Art Student League, and the Art Student League has had it since the 19th century, so it's really not that crazy. So the paper here is white. I think it's just yellowed with time. I mean, they did use some cream paper, maybe. I think it's just with how much... these kind of spots on the paper, all these orange rusty spots, it's called foxing, and it happens to old paper. It's just contaminants, or sometimes even the paper was made with water that had iron in it, or it's mold or something, and old paper over time just gets these yellow spots, and in general too, just from light, it yellows as well. So I think this paper was probably white, or pretty darn white at some point. Yeah, the PVC plastic is just the type you buy at Home Depot. That's where I got it. Or that's where that's where Michael got it from. All right, very cool. Very good. So, yeah, it's just more things to think about. Really cool stuff. And also, one thing, too, is that the last art history stream I did, there was a decent amount. And by the way, it's a stream VOD with 5,000 views. At the end of the day, this does not drained my mental. But there was like a handful of like pretty negative comments about the way I was talking about art, and I really racked my brain for a long time because I felt like what they were saying was really stupid. and I think it mostly was pretty stupid. And I think just being on the internet, I have to have like a pretty strong filter of what I do and don't listen to, especially when it comes to like art critique and stuff like that. For art critique, I have professional artists that, I've practiced under, or my teachers or whatever, the people that I trust almost no one else. And that, I think that's kind of how you have to be. You can't just take advice from random people because people are stupid. But I was curious why some of those sentiments were being had. And because it was a pretty factual presentation that I gave last time I did our history stream about kind of French academies, I do speak with like a certain level of confidence in my voice, and I speak pretty aggressively about it too, pretty, asserting things. And some people, I think, I'm not sure exactly how to put this. I think that it comes off very dogmatic, or it comes off very like art has to be one way, or this, and that of course is the opposite of what I want, and what I believe. And I can totally see how sometimes me talking about this stuff comes off this way, especially too when I'm fighting back against the ateliers and their systems of education. All these schools, whether it be Florence Academy or Lime Academy. I have friends that teach at Lime. Great people, fantastic artists. Most of the people at Lime are better artists than I am, or better artists than I ever will be, technically. I'm a guy who's never had. I never had the opportunity to be an art student. Never. I as soon as I got out of I had 1 year, I guess, because I was in college or so. But even when I was in college, I had a part-time job, and then. When COVID happened, I worked through COVID. Then I moved out of my parents' house, or my mom's house at 21. And from there, I was totally on my own. And I practiced art for 3 or 4 years. I think 3 years before I quit my job and started doing content full time. So, I've always supported myself. I've never had the opportunity to just go to a school like this. And I think that there can be these people get very good at these schools. But from going to several of them, to talking to people that have trained at these schools, and to seeing the response of when I am, quite vitriolic against the ways that they teach and very against some of those ideas, even dogmatically so, I think, to be honest, it just comes off as very negative. It comes off as somebody who wants art to only be one way, even though that's what I feel like I am trying to fight against. And at the end of the day, I just don't feel like, especially after going to some of these schools in person and talking to the students, I don't really feel like I share anything in common with any of the modern academies or the ateliers. And yeah, I just don't think I share anything in common at all. I never have, had the ability to just go and study for years. And especially at these private schools that they don't give you, that's not connected to the state, you don't get any sort of funding or anything like that. Most people are getting help from their parents, and that's great. That's what parents are for. I've just never been in that position. And I think I take a lot of pride in where I come from and, having to overcome those difficulties. And I think the way that I work and the history that I talk about and my philosophy is just, it's so incredibly different and far away from these schools that, to me, I don't think there's any reason to even talk about it, because it's a very small amount of people, and it's just another area of the world that doesn't really connect to what I do. So yeah, I think I'm gonna not talk so much about misinformation on that level. I am about to do a whole ChatGPT segment about art history misinformation. I think I'm just going to focus it a little bit more towards a broader audience and like staying positive about this stuff, or just being more like inspiring about this type of stuff. Because the whole reason why I'm anybody on social media or got popular in any way is because I did something that no one else was doing. And so, yeah, I don't want to revert back to doing things that other people are doing. I'm never going to be better than, an atelier student at like these 60-hour figure poses or rendering or whatever. And that's not what I want to be, and that's not what I have the ability to be. I spend months making a video on Blender. I know a little bit about video editing. I know a little bit about drawing. I know a little bit about painting. My music paused. I know a little bit about this and that and this and that on a million different topics, and that's all I really can be because of this type of work that I do. And I think that I want to focus more on making art out of that. I really like that. So yeah, that's that. Would you ever want to? Yeah, I don't think I want to go. There were years where, especially I went to Italy in 2021, and I studied with a Russian teacher, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go after this. I'm gonna save up money, and I'm gonna go to the Reppin Academy, and for 2 years or whatever, move there. That way, I can really get good. I don't think I really ever want to go to any of these schools. Just in the same way that I don't think that a lot of these graduates from these schools really want to start learning, French Academy academic stuff with a paper and stump if all they've learned is graphite. It's a different philosophy, and I think it would have to seriously uproot and stunt every aspect of my life. That way I could, improve in some technical areas, and I'm not sure that, I definitely have a lot of technical areas that I need to improve on, but I think that I'd really be holding myself back in pursuit of, a grass is always greener approach. Would I ever start my own school? I don't know. It's really hard. I just told you I don't have enough time to balance making 3 different types of content. I have no fucking idea how I'd run a school. Yeah. So I need a lot of help and a lot of startup capital. If you have both of those things, please contact me and we can make it happen. My music pause. Gotta stay hydrated. Damn right, Maya. Do you want a sip? Okay. Let's get some hype music going. What's hype music? Do I have a hype music on here? Let's blast breakcore. Oh, I had some good jazz I was playing earlier, but I think that not that many songs here. I really like this one. And I like this one too. Dude, it's so good. Oh, it's got lyrics though. That's all right. So, let me open up this. Try ChatGPT. Oh. Up. All right, everybody. This is the ChatGPT segment, okay? I have a Discord, not a Reddit, and I don't want a Reddit. The thing I like about you and Ramon is you both make academic drawing feel accessible to a guy like me who's got a job and shit to do besides from drawing 3 hours a day. Exactly. That's what it's all about. I think it's really fun. We all got time for hobbies. You don't have to, grind a billion hours. You can kind of just pick away at something and really enjoy learning about it. And maybe, if you got a full-time job and a family or something like that, your probably goal isn't to become the next, Lepage or Danyan or Jerome or something, but you can really, still enjoy, learning that and picking up a hobby. I love hobbies, dude. I do lots of random shit all the time. I'm not 100%. I'm not 100% on drawing all the time. You can use that art stream thumbnail. That one guy. Oh, Pluvium. Oh, I forgot about that. I should have used that. I made kind of. I feel like thumbnail today is pretty good. It's a pretty good thumbnail as far as like YouTube theory goes. Pluvium probably lacking on the theory, but very high in ambition. And you got to give that something. All right, everybody. I have been seeing a lot of people searching stuff and using the AI search results lately as the definitive answer to what they wanted to look up. They don't even click on the little link that it gives you. And I'm not going to be your anti-AI daddy here, okay? I think that ChatGPT is pretty useful sometimes for some tasks. If you have some surface level questions to ask it that don't really need to get verified all that much, it can be pretty darn helpful. But I think ChatGPT is uniquely bad at art questions and art history especially. I've never gotten through a conversation that it hasn't immediately lied to me in. So I want to test ChatGPT today and see what it knows about my area of research, which is 19th century art. And let's see what it gives us. I really want to really use this as a nice learning experience. I think it'll be a nice kind of walk through the basics, and we can fact check it, and then I'll dig down into some of the specific areas that I know a lot about, and we'll get into the very specific information. If you're in an argument with someone and they post a screenshot of the Google AI summary that answers their question as proof as to why they're right, bang, off the hip. You know what I'm saying? All right, ChatGPT. Good morning, Mr. GPT. Good morning, Mr. GPT. What was art in the 19th? What was art in the 19th century like? Let's start off nice and broad. Good morning! The 19th century was a wild period for art, full of change, rebellion, and experimentation. There are lots of new ideas about what art could be and how it could reflect society, emotions, and even new ways of seeing the world. Let me give you a quick breakdown of some key movements and shifts. Perfect. All right, so typical art history class stuff that we're going to see here. In my art history class, we had to look at a piece of art and know if it was in the first half or the second half of the century, or sometimes even which quarter of the century is in, and be able to name the movement. So this is very basic stuff. Early 1800s, early 19th century, we got Romanticism. So Romanticism emerged as a reaction against the rationality of the Enlightenment and the Industrial Revolution and created individual emotion and beauty of nature, often in a dramatic and mystical way. We got Delacroix. Delacroix is the founder, I think, of the Romantic movement, or basically that's what he's considered. J.W.M. Turner, Caspar David Friedrich, is all very true. I would also add, Jericho. I would certainly add Jericho on there as well. He's very early Romantic artist. Pretty important. Pretty similarly important as Delacroix. He was one of the pioneers of the Romantic movement. I'd probably put him in over Friedrich or maybe Turner, but that's fair. Why did it say wild? It was a wild period. ChatGPT, answer this but make it freaky. Notable works, The Raft of Medusa. Wait a second. Delacroix? The Raft of Medusa by Delacroix? Jericho Raft of Medusa. Are we really hitting a mistake on... Am I being gaslit? Delacroix. Are we seriously running into a mistake? Delacroix did not... Oh, wait, did he paint his own? No. It's a Jericho painting. Raft of Medusa by Theodore Jericho. I'm like, this is so basic that it's already melting my brain. Delacroix did not paint the Raft of Medusa. Great. Literally the first question. That's an easy one. And the Fighting Timur by Turner. I don't even know what this painting is. Oh, I do know this painting. I've seen it before. Sure. It's a nice Turner landscape. Realism. The Mona Lisa by Michelangelo. So true. So realism is the next movement in the mid-1800s. So realism rejected romanticism's emotional excess and sought to portray the world as it really was, often focusing on the lives of ordinary people in the harsh realities of society. Very true. It said Courbet is probably one of your earliest realists, and Jean-Francois Millet. Millet is, yeah, I guess he's a realist. It's just that later on, early on in his career, this is typical realism stuff. It's just that later in his career, he started doing, pretty not so realist stuff. Some very interesting stuff. But I can give it the pass on that. I wonder, does it say, okay, he's part of the, can be categorized as part of the realism art movement. We'll give him that. We'll give him that. And Courbet, of course, is, let's look up Courbet here. Courbet is actually a beast. I really like Courbet's work. He's really in the time before they were good at color, but his work is absolutely fantastic. The guy could paint incredibly well, and he's just so much fun to look at. Really, really fun and great paintings. So I'm a big fan of Courbet, and really, Courbet's. I'm allowed to show this nudity on YouTube. Okay, all right, YouTube person, this is art. When Courbet is painting lesbians, he is at his absolute peak. The guy popped off when he was painting freak-like shit. He paints the hell out of two women having sex with each other. Everything else, pretty good too. So I'm actually a really big fan of Courbet, and the guy could paint. And then comes Impressionism. So Impressionism, I would say, absolutely starts at the 1870s or so. So Impressionism starts around the 1870s or so. Yoshi story. And everybody knows Impressionists. They'll talk about Monet or Renoir or who are some of the later Impressionists. I feel like people will throw Van Gogh in there. Van Gogh's not really an Impressionist though, right? Now, Renoir and Monet are truly, and Degas, of course, are truly the early Impressionists. The guys around the 1870s or so, I believe they were almost all in Cormon's studio in the French Academy. And Monet is well respected by even very strong, more academic artists or realist artists at the time. Monet was a highly respected artist. Degas as well. Now Renoir, I don't know if you guys have seen this. There is a page, Renoir Sucks at Painting, on Instagram, and I am so on board, dude. Renoir could not paint, dude. This guy sucks at painting. He has some genuinely interesting stuff early on, but what is going on? What is going on in some of these paintings? Why do they gotta AI this? Come on, bro. We cannot... this isn't really even what I would consider Impressionism. The guy's just having a hard time. And now I know the one art history nerd out there is going to be like, but he had arthritis. He got really bad arthritis. Arthritis doesn't make you paint like this. I've seen paraplegics painting with their mouth that paint way better than this. The guy was kind of dookie. Why are there so many pictures of Trump on this page? No way this is real. There's no way this is real. Yo, chill. This is schedule 1. Loud. Now, I went to the Renoir Harvard Fog. I went to the Harvard Fog Museum. And they have this early Renoir from the 1870s, I believe. 1875. And this is actually a pretty good Renoir. This is a nice drawing. It's well composed. Like there's a lot of cool motion in these fingers, the way they're interlocked into each other, and nice play of colors. Early Renoir, when he was in his academic training, had some chops. He had some painting chops. After he left school, he started to really pride himself, I think, on how he could do a whole portrait painting in like 20 minutes. I think he probably should have spent another 20 minutes or so, at least, on maybe just the basics. You can call it a style thing all you want. I think it's just bad design, in my opinion. But if you like it, you like it. Post-Impressionism. All right, this is where Van Gogh in the late 1800s, Cezanne, sure, that's fine. I fully expect ChatGPT to be able to get that right. Renoir's earlier stuff is much better. Renoir is just Monet if he couldn't draw. Looks like he just got lazy. Yeah, I'm part of that. Symbolism. Are we not going to talk about... Okay. Symbolism, late 1800s. So this would be like Gustave Moreau, who's right here. I don't know who Rodin is, and Bouvier de Chavannes. Yeah, so these are guys that are focused on expressing deeper truths, emotions, and dreams through metaphor rather than direct representation. The movement was very mystical and often dark. Moreau is a fantastic artist. Let's go to Moreau's Wikipedia. Moreau is a fantastic artist who has all sorts of really just interesting and cool artists. He had a great atelier, I think a private atelier, where he trained all sorts of really good students. The guy was just a really creative and fun and interesting artist who made so much work. This guy made so many paintings, and like this is watercolor. It's just a huge variety of different work throughout Moreau's work. It's really fun. So Moreau is probably, the symbolist painter. Bouvier de Chavannes, as well, is very popular in the 19th century, kind of a controversial figure. Art Nouveau. Art Nouveau in the 1890s? Is that a little bit early? 1883 through 1914. Okay. Hey, I'm wrong. So one thing that kind of bothers me here is this is kind of the art history class version of what was popular during the 19th century. Technically, these are all true, but there were some absolutely massive movements that just get completely skipped over, like pretty much all of the academics, right? Bouguereau, Gérôme, Cabanel. These guys are incredible, massive forces. Some of the most popular artists throughout the entire 19th century of anywhere in the world. Doesn't really get mentioned, right? Actually, there is no neoclassical on this at all. So that's very weird, right? 19th century is really kicked off by David's students. Jacques-Louis David in the late 1700s. Jacques-Louis David in the late 1700s has a bunch of students. Those students split off and start teaching in the early 19th century in a variety of different techniques, and they are all very, very good. You have Ingres, you have Gros, you have who else is from David? There's a really great book I can show you here. Let me pull a book up here. Art. Where's my Armitage book? So it's Lectures on Painting by Armitage. It's from 1883. I think these lectures were given a little bit earlier, 76 to 82. Okay. And one of the lectures is on David and his school, and it goes over all the students of David. It's a really fun read. Gros, Ingres, Granet, Proudhon, and Géricault. Géricault was a student of David as well, I believe. And it's really fun to look at some of these guys. They all have really interesting stories. Like Gros was an absolutely killer painter, really great painter. He submitted a painting to the salon and it was roasted. It was hated. The critics were super harsh. Gros takes that so hard, he drowns himself. He killed himself because of that shit. That's how deep in Gros was. These guys were live or die for the paintings, and they were some of the best draftsmen, drawing ability, some of the best drawing ability to ever live. I mean, these guys were absolutely spectacular. It's crazy not to mention this generation of painters. Picot as well, I believe, right? Picot? Oh, maybe Picot wasn't. My bad. These guys taught the generation that taught Jerome, that taught Picot, that taught Bouguereau, that taught, it's this huge lineage through the entire 19th century that, as every painting in the Louvre comes from the School of David for the most part, for the 19th century. So it's criminal to skip over some of this stuff. It's absolutely criminal. Really, really fun read here. I want to search that Gros thing. He was kind of depressed his whole life, so. Delaroche was eclectic in his art. That is, he endeavored to unite the spirit and life of Gros with the severe drawing of Ingres. So Ingres or Ingres is another student of David. We've all seen some of his artwork before. He was not always very successful in this attempt, but fortunately, he had qualities in his own that will rescue. Oh, wait, let's look up Gros' work. Artist. It's 18th century stuff, so it doesn't tend to be, quite as interesting to us now. But I mean, just think about the amount of skill that it would take to pull off a painting with this many figures in it. Everything is spectacularly designed. He did a bunch of battle scenes too. These are massive wall-sized paintings that have 100 plus people in them. None of us have the ability or the strength to just sit down and paint this much anymore. Nobody has this anymore. It's totally lost. So I think that's a huge loss. And then also, all the realists or impressionists through the latter half of the century, right? So another thing that this misses is it's the realism in the early 19th century, which would be Courbet and Millet, but there's realists throughout the entire 19th century, right? And that's a damn shame to miss. Or the early Impressionists. In the 1870s, the Impressionists weren't just Claude Monet and Degas. They were Bastien Lepage and many others. I have a quote about that, too. Pull that up. Assets. Teaching, quotes, Impressionism. Throw this on screen. The public could appreciate the Impressionist doctrine of light and color when it was made palatable by more solid draftsmanship. As Henri Houssaye noted in 1882, Impressionism earns every form of sarcasm when it comes to the names Manet, Monet, Renoir, Caillebotte, I don't know this guy, Degas, and every honor when it's called Bastien Lepage, Douay, Gervais, Bompard, Danton, Jean-Nut, Boutin, Mongeau, Jean Barad, and Dagnon Bouvrot. Let me show you Dagnon Bouvrot. Here's a painting by Dagnon. I think Dagnon is one of just the most skilled, incredible painters of all time. I mean, just the amount of talent in order to capture the light so well. Look at all the small color, hue, and temperature shifts inside of just these small areas. Or this little stool over here that has these beautiful flowers on it. You can see how thick everything is. How thick this paint is on the back of the leg here. There's like these little mini subplots. For some reason, this baby is getting a bunch of smoke blown on his face. We got the photographer taking a picture of the wedding, probably the mother-in-law. We have the family over here. Like, it's just, there's so much storytelling. There's all these motifs on the counter. Like, what's this card mean? Like, you can spend days looking at this painting. So these guys were the early Impressionists because they were painting the light. Before that, if we look at Gro's work, who we were just looking at, like Gro's not painting what things actually look like. He has like his own comic book superhero canon of what people look like, and he's using models, of course, painting from life, of course, but really using them to stage like maquettes to build out this own scene in his mind. Whereas the early Impressionists are actually seeing what light looks like when it hits a floorboard. When you have cool overcast light come in on this north window and you hit a shiny floorboard that's wax and it turns very blue and cool. And over here where it's not getting that light, it's red, and it's actually getting reflected red through this window. These guys are very much so Impressionists, just as much, if not more so, than Monet was painting haystacks. So Impressionism was a really broad movement. By the way, let me go back to that quote. Where'd I put it? I'm not Monet and Manet and Renoir, maybe not Renoir. Degas. I totally respect all these painters. Caillebotte, I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong. Might not know that name. I didn't, but it's the guy who painted this painting, which is a very famous painting, and it's a great painting, very well designed. So definitely, those guys were great painters, but it's not the only bit of Impressionism out there. Impressionism was a much bigger thing. Does anyone know where I put ChatGPT? Wait, did I fucking close it? Wait, did I close it? How did I do that? How did I do that? All right, we're going to have to ask a question again. I'm not logged in. I'll do the same thing. Good morning. Control-Shift-T. It's not going to be indexed anyways, or cached anyways. Because I'm not logged in. Okay, we got basically the exact same answer. Okay. Now let's ask it, where do I want to go from here? So I don't want to beg the question. I'm not going to try to bait it into giving me really niche false information. I'm going to be really fair and try to just push it a little bit. So maybe, how did artists learn in the 19th century? I have very specialized knowledge on certain people, certain areas. We can get down to those in a minute. We'll see if we can naturally get there, though. So it's very important that if you want to look like artists of the past, if you want to learn from their lessons, then you should not just copy their finished artwork, their final works from when they're, a mature artist. You should understand the way that they trained and recreate that training. That's much more important to do. So in the 19th century, artists learned and trained was very different from today's more formalized art education system. That's reasonably true. The path to becoming an artist was shaped by tradition, apprenticeship, and access to certain institutions or societies. Here's a breakdown of how artists typically learn their craft during that time. So apprenticeship. Early training, many artists started their careers as apprentices in studios where they learned hands-on from established masters. They begin doing by basic tasks like preparing materials before gradually progressing to copying works of art and eventually creating them. So I'm mostly specialized in, mostly just like French stuff. This apprentice thing is, maybe in the early part of the century, but by the second, really for most of the 19th century, if not all of it, it was studios, it was ateliers, that's workshops. You pay money, you study, you learn there. I don't think that this, like, they had like these child apprentices like they did in the Renaissance. That's a much older thing. But there probably are some examples of that I'm just not aware of. J.W.M. Turner. So maybe it was in the UK. First working in an architect's office and then learning painting techniques under established masters. I don't know about that. So academies and art schools. This is what I think. So royal academies in countries like France and England, official institutions like the École des Beaux-Arts in Paris or the Royal Academy of Arts in London played a major role in educating artists. These academies were the pinnacle of formal art training, and they were where aspiring artists would learn classical techniques in drawing, anatomy, perspective, and composition. Very true. This is the primary way was through academies and private schools. Curriculum, their focus of these institution was on the academic style of art, which emphasized realism, idealized human forms, and mythology or historical subjects. Schools would often start by learning to draw from classical sculptures like those from ancient Greece or Rome and eventually move. So this is pretty true. The idealized thing is kind of not so true. In the 19th century, they especially after the 1820s, they were pretty interested in just realism. They weren't interested in shaping people to be some sort of specific canon of proportion. So I'm kind of skeptical of that. Exams and competitions to advance in the academy. Students had to participate in public exhibitions or competitions such as the Prix de Rome in France, which allowed the winner to study in Rome for several years. This is very true. It's not really like, I think we have a modern idea of how universities work, right? So you don't go in and you go from class to class to class and then you get a degree or anything. These ateliers, they were just pretty much open. You just go in, you study, you do the same thing every day. There were some other classes you could take on the side too, like an anatomy lecture or perspective lectures. Some people didn't really show up to those. They just drew from life. Other people, were very militant about going to everything as much as possible. But there wasn't much progression within the academy or within the studio, except for going to the Prix de Rome, and there were some monthly competitions and stuff like that. And then the Prix de Rome competition is this big competition that they would do once a year. The winner goes to Rome to study for a few years. So the Académie des Beaux-Arts in Paris, it should be the École des Beaux-Arts, but it changes name every 10 years, so I'm not going to be picky. The Salon, so in Paris, the Salon was the most important exhibition for contemporary art. It's very true. Biannual event was organized by the Royal Academy and was a huge opportunity for artists to display their works for a wider audience, and including critics and potential patrons. So this is true. One important thing to note here is that it says the Royal Academy. Normally, I would associate that with the Royal Academy in England, which is basically their version of the École des Beaux-Arts, the French Academy of Fine Arts. The French Academy is like a group of high-power artists that get to make some decisions about art in general. And I think that they would judge stuff like the Prix de Rome probably as well. I'm not 100% sure about that. They're not an educational institution, and they're actually entirely disconnected from the École des Beaux-Arts, which is the School of Fine Arts. Control W. That just closes the tab. Fuck you guys. You see how I tested that on another tab? I'm an old head, okay? Jake, Alt F4 closes. Jake, Alt F4 will reopen. That should work, buddy. Nice try, buddy. So the Academy is technically different from the École or the French Academy of Fine Art or the French School of Fine Arts. I blur the lines a lot in the way I talk because it gets too complicated. But at one point, the Academy of Fine Art, or the French Academy, was called the Royal French Academy. In the early 19th century, and then they changed their name. They changed their name about every 10 fucking years because people love to throw revolutions in France. It's really fucking annoying. I'm literally not kidding. They did change their names like 3 times throughout the 19th century at least. Blah, blah, blah. Self-studying, copying. They study the old masters. This is true. They would travel to Italy. If you win the Prix de Rome, you go to Italy, workshops and collaborative learning. Boring. Artistic communities. Yeah, this isn't really where you would go to learn, though, or train. The Salon de Refusés was a group of people who already had their training, who were getting refused from the Salon and came together to exhibit art on their own. It's not really somewhere where you go to train or learn. It's more of a place where you go to help spread your art. And private mentorship, working with a mentorship. Vincent van Gogh studied under his brother Theo, who's a successful art dealer. but he also sought advice from other contemporary artists. Despite his lack of formal training, Van Gogh's work evolved quickly throughout personal mentorship and self-teaching. Van Gogh had formal training, so this is wrong. Van Gogh studied, I believe, at the Royal Academy in Brussels. I believe I'm correct on that. He also came back to France and Paris, and he studied under Cormon at the École. So, Van Gogh, he did bark plates. Actually, I think I have a quote here. 1 second. Yep. This is in 1881. Vincent van Gogh wrote to his brother Theo, "Careful study and repeated copying of Bargues' exercises have given me a better insight into figure drawing. I have learned to measure and to see and to look for the broad outlines so that, thank God, what seemed utterly impossible to me before is gradually becoming possible to me now. I no longer stand as helpless before nature as I used to." I don't think Theo was even an artist. I'm not a Van Gogh expert, though. So, yeah, Van Gogh had a formal training. So that's another inconsistency there. It's the devil in the details with AI. It's just they'll always be like kind of right on the big broad topics, but when you get into the details, almost every single thing is wrong, and it's wrong on weird things too, and it doesn't make any sense. Art societies and salons, you already talked about that. You're kind of just repeating yourself. Okay, let's try to hammer down on that. So, what was the training like inside the École des Beaux-Arts? That's the French Academy of Fine Arts. Specifically, what type of practice did they do? What materials did they use? So this should be very easy. Very easy. There's very clear answers to this question. Yeah, Theo was an art dealer. He wasn't an artist. That's how I know. Maybe he did have some sort of training and he taught Vincent at some point, but also equally likely that ChatGPT just made that up. Oh my God, I was like, why isn't this song ended? It's not the whole soundtrack to Schedule 1. It's just one song looped for an hour. Use the search button. Okay, let's see. Is it going to tell me to get an account? I use the search button. Nintendo Summer Playlist. It's a nice groove. It's a nice groove. Okay, so core focus. The training was rigorous, structured, and focused on classical principles of art. It was the most prestigious art school in 19th century French, and its curriculum was designed to turn students into highly skilled artists who could master the traditional forms of painting, sculpture, and architecture. That is true. Here's a detailed look of what students did. Drawing and classical techniques. The École was heavily emphasized classical training. The students began with a strong foundation in drawing. This was the key to mastering all other aspects of art. The training was intended to perfect the technical skills of students before moving on to more complex subjects. So, cast drawing. This is true. This is what any student would have started with. Hi, Jake. Love your videos. Wonder if you want to ever move towards a more shape-oriented comic style. No. This is very true. So cast drawing is what every student, no matter skill level, would have started with some cast drawing. It's drawing ancient sculptures that they had. They had a big hall of them. Primary practice, one of the most important exercises was drawing from the plaster class of classical sculptures. These casts were famous Greek and Roman. Very true. Purpose, the method helps students learn anatomy, proportions, and idealized form. By copying these idealized figures, students develop their ability to represent the human figure. Very true. Materials used. Students use charcoal and chalk for these drawings. That is 100% true, and I'm very surprised. Normally it's going to say graphite and stuff. The emphasis was on mastering line and shadow to depict the solidity and volumes of the sculpture. Sure. Life drawing. Now this is like cast drawing and life drawing is like 80% of everything that happened. So, life studies. After mastering the cast, students progressed to drawing from live models, typically nudes. The goal was to apply the anatomical knowledge. I can't do the Nintendo music. It's too happy. We're going breakcore. So after mastering the cast, students progressed from drawing from live models, typically nudes. The goal was to apply the anatomical knowledge gained from casts to the living, breathing human. That is very true. And normally you would have to draw certain, casts for however long. The teacher would come down once a week, and if the teacher deemed that you were good enough to move on, then they would let you move up to the life studio, and you would start drawing from the model after that. And occasionally you'd go back. If you weren't good enough at drawing the model, they'd send your ass back down to the cast. So it was very competitive. Students spent many hours sketching for models, often short poses, 5 to 10 minutes. I don't know how much that happened. To practicing quick sketching. What's the difference between short poses and quick sketching? Often short poses, 5 to 10 minutes to practice quick sketching, and in long poses, several hours to capture the model's full figure. So there were very specific time formats in the 19th century, and they really didn't change. So I would expect ChatGPT to give me what those were. Primary materials used were charcoal, graphite, and Conte crayons. So it's 99% just charcoal and Conte crayons. Some people did do graphite, but normally for small stuff, and not for academic exercises, and not within the école, really. Focus was on line and form throughout shading, and tonal gradation were also important. You're so right. We're going to the video game music. Well, we're going to the Skyrim music. We're doing the music change every 5 seconds. Wait, I had a good mix. Where did it go? I had something for this. Here it is. Boom. There we go. That's what I wanted. And then they would study composition. So they would give the students a prompt, and then the students would have to make little sketches based off of that prompt, like the birth of Christ or something like that. So historical or religious subjects. It says historical or mythological, and religious in here, exactly. Students would use oil paints, brushes, canvas, or wood panels. They were trained to use underpainting techniques, often starting with a monochrome layer before adding color to build depth and volume. So this, again, is a very common, this is the myth that I expected to see, right? So especially for sketches, for composition, historical themes, these students worked very loosely, very broadly, and they did not use some sort of underpainting or black and white sketch. They actually worked extremely rapidly on purpose. And the 19th century was all about moving away from layered or monochrome techniques, at least in the French Academy. Let me pull up a quote here. Yeah, so here are some paintings done for the composition sketches for the Prix de Rome. This is the type of stuff that students would have drawn or painted. Most students wouldn't even be painting, but this is the type of stuff that they would paint in order to practice their composition skills and to compete in little composition, monthly composition contests. So it really wasn't built off of some sort of underpainting technique or black and white. They were very simple, direct ways of just getting an idea out with no details. It's kind of hard to see these, but there's no details. There's no sort of painting. They're just eggheads and very simple drapery. It was all about the idea. That was what most important. This one's a little bit more refined. This would have been probably a very, very skilled student, a very high-level student. And most students would just be making little sketches, not even paintings. color theory. They were taught classical principles of color theory, which involved understanding how to mix and apply pigments. It's true they understood that, but there's actually not really. There would be no classes where somebody would sit down and they'd be like, okay, this is the CMY palette, and first you mix this into this to make this, and this into this to make this. No, the teachers never gave any sort of instruction on how to mix specific colors. They were just giving students a palette, a simple palette of colors, and the students taught each other and learned themselves. And they were very against kind of learning specific ways of painting because they didn't want to, they wanted just to be able to paint what they saw very specifically. And especially this is in the second half of the 19th century. They worked with these pigments, and they mixed with linseed or walnut oil. It's true, but they were trained at first not to mix their paint with anything. They learned perspective. Yes, they did. The Prix de Rome, the highlights of the Prix de Rome, prestigious competition that won. They allowed a student to stay at the Via de Medici in Rome. The competition was a key motivator for students to push their limits and challenge. 100%. That's the goal of any student, was to paint a big narrative painting and go win the Prix de Rome. If you win the Prix de Rome, you make it as an artist. You have a big career lined up for you. If you don't, you have to go back to your small town and tell everyone you lost. And all those people are sending you money. They're funding you to go to school, so they're going to be disappointed in you. So that's why these students would get into fistfights all the time. They'd prank each other. They'd do really horrible things to each other because they were super, super stressed out, and it was really, really intense. The salon as well. So there was a yearly salon, which they would showcase large paintings. That's very true. The studios were large, formal, and crowded with students. Very true. The pictures show tons of people crowded into a small space. The atmosphere was quite structured, with long hours of study and limited opportunity for experimentation in the early years. It's true. They were allowed to work in their own personal flares a little bit, but they had to abide by the timing of the poses and how specifically, the types of qualities that the teachers wanted. And some teachers were more dogmatic than others. Students were critiqued regularly by their professors. The atelier system allowed students to learn under the supervision of a master artist. These masters were often highly respected figures in the world, and the students were expected to follow their guidance closely. This is true, except for one thing. Students were critiqued regularly by their professors. Most professors maybe came in once a week max, maybe twice a week if you were really lucky. They actually hardly came in. They would walk around. They give most people a critique if they could, and that was it. You get that once a week check-in. If they're a really good teacher, they come in on Sundays and like Tuesdays or whatever, or Saturdays and Tuesdays. So they would do one at the end of the pose that happened every week, and one at the beginning or early stages of the pose. Then that's a really good teacher. It's hard to find. They used charcoal. We already said that. Paint, oil paints, sure. Okay, so again, kind of right, but it's also just like a word salad, right? It will say well, they trained really hard for rigorous hours, and it's well, you can say that about any school ever, but when you get into the specifics, they're not really there, and when they are there, they don't exactly line up 100%. But it's still mostly factual. If someone had this sort of level of knowledge, I would think that they're reasonably knowledgeable on this stuff. So let's dial in a little bit more, and I want to ask some questions about Bucharest too. So how long did they do figure drawings? How long was each figure drawing pose? Let's do figure drawing / painting. How long was each figure drawing / painting pose? Yeah, let's ask you a really specific, super easy question. Super easy question. How long was each figure drawing and painting pose? Because this is really, really simple. Yeah, this is just totally wrong. Short poses, 1 to 15 minutes. I'm sure that they did some sort of short sketching. I know that they did sketching, but I don't think they really did it inside of the classroom. Medium like poses, 20 minutes to an hour. No. And then long poses, 2 to 4 hours in a single sitting. That is kind of true. They did do 4-hour poses in a single sitting, but the entire pose was for 12 hours or 24 hours, or 12 hours in the evening class. So, you know, it's like it was 4 hours, and you'd go to class in the morning. There was a 4-hour pose in like Atelier Jérôme, for example, which is one of the 3 workshops inside of the French Academy. And they would do 4 hours. I think they would do 1 hour on of drawing and then 20 minutes off. So pretty intense for the models. They'd hold a pose for an hour straight, and then they get a 20-minute break, and then hold for an hour straight, 20-minute break, and then a final hour, 3 hours of actual drawing time. Or actually, I think, yeah. And then that would be 3 hours of actual drawing time. And then they would do that 6 days in a week for... I'm an hour short here. So I think it was 4 hours of actual drawing time with 20 minutes in between. 4 hours of drawing time a day. And then 6 days a week makes 24 hours total. And some of the students in there were painting, some of them were drawing. The beginners were drawing, and the more advanced senior students were painting. Then there was an evening class that would happen around, I think it was around 4 p.m. or so, and that would be just once a week, 2 hours, 6 days a week, 2-hour pose, and that is 12 hours only drawing in the evening class. So this is just super wrong, which sucks because if you type like, how do I paint like Bouguereau? How do I paint like these great painters from the 19th century? How do I learn? Let's ask it that. How do I train to paint like Bouguereau? It sucks because like it seems credible. It seems like that it knows what it's talking about. And a lot of the stuff that it says is true, but then when you dig into the details, it totally leads you astray. And so you could feel really confident that you are getting the truth, but when you actually go to recreate it, you're not recreating anything. It's just a hallucination. Ask it to verify the accuracy of your own response. Specifically, well, I'll give it some hints here. Like Atelier Jérôme, Pils, or Cabanel. So these are the big 3 teachers, Jérôme, Pils, and Cabanel in the 1870s. These guys trained some of the greatest students of all time, and they were just some of the most incredible painters of all time. Test its own response against the rubric. What is the rubric? Roman artists like Jérôme, Pils, and Cabanel. These ateliers were rooted in the French Academy methods, had their own unique features and varying practices, reflecting shifts in broader art world in response to seeing the changes and taste movements like realism and impressionism. That's how they judge your mark. What are you saying for assignments? But who made the rubric? Do I have to make the rubric? Or do they have a rubric? Who is the rubric? I'm giving this... Oh, we got a donation. What's up? Super chat. Bye. I can't even read that. Spayo! Thank you for the 27 sec. M. Preggers. Thank you for the sex. Let's go. All right. So I asked it to verify its accuracy, training focus. Jérôme was a neoclassical painter, blah, 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 blah. Student at Jérôme's atelier followed the classical model of drawing from life, much like the Beaux-Arts curriculum. However, in the atelier, the duration of figure poses was often longer than in earlier practices. So this is already wrong. Jérôme's atelier is inside of the French Academy. Atelier means workshop. The French Academy, or the French École of Beaux-Arts. The French École de Beaux-Arts is the French School of Fine Arts. It has 3 workshops inside of it. Each workshop is called an atelier. Atelier Jérôme was one of the longest-standing, most popular ateliers run by Jérôme. So, and then there's Atelier Pils and Jérôme and Cabanel. These ones switch out all the time. Jérôme just lived forever, and he taught a lot. So he had an atelier for a very long time. It was very well respected. So this is making it sound like Jérôme wasn't. He was in a separate, a private school out somewhere else. Oh, I'm not using a real art history test because there's no art history test. I'd have to write a test. Maybe that would have been an interesting idea. I'd have to write my own test because there's no art history test that could ever be as good enough for this. Any surface level art history class is very, very surface level until you're at like a fucking graduate level of research. There's zero specialty whatsoever. Although it did fail the very first question I asked it, so it would have failed those 2, I guess. So short poses, this did not happen to my knowledge. Long poses, 2 to 4 hours. This is entirely wrong again. Jérôme's atelier, very simple. 6 days a week, 4 hours of drawing each day, 24 hours of drawing or painting from life every week. At the end of the week, you put your drawing away and you pick up a new one and you start over and you make the next one. That's it. That's pretty much the only thing that happens in the School of Fine Arts, specifically in Jérôme's atelier. Jérôme comes in once a week. So this is just wrong. It's just wrong. And it's not that hard to verify. Extended poses for final works? What is this? What do you mean final works? There is no final. It's not like a university. You don't have classes. Long poses for creating full-scale academic paintings. I did that every single week. His students could spend several days or even weeks on a single painting. No! The whole point of it was that if you don't finish by the end of the week, you don't get to work on it anymore. You have to move on. It encourages students to work with ruthless efficiency. That's the whole point. Especially if they're working on historical subjects or exotic themes. What are you talking about? Exotic themes. Whoa!
Pregnant man emoji.
Pregnant man emoji. Dude, I'm getting tons of sex right now. Let's freaking go. 129. Thank you. Thank you, Spayo. Jérôme used oil paint, sure. Underpainting technique and layering. No, they did not do underpaintings. Jérôme was very against underpaintings in the academic practices. No, it was specifically, the whole point was to paint as directly, as thick as possible with the exact color that you see. No nonsense. That was how Jérôme trained his students. In his own personal work, he certainly used underpaintings because that's where it's good and useful for. Complicated scenes where you need to really plan stuff out. But for painting from life, they were very against that. Pils. Pils was known for his emphasis. Blah 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 blah. It's the same stuff. It's just totally hallucinated. This is all made up. There's not a lot of good information on Cabanel's atelier, so I'd be curious. Wait, can you cite some sources for that Atelier Jérôme stuff? Can this cite sources? Certainly. It's not going to cite any sources, is it? Am I on a dumb version because I'm not logged in? I've asked these questions on like a paid account before, and what I really like using ChatGPT for is if I just will screenshot a page of a book that's in French and then just copy and paste it in, and it will translate it, and the translations are really good. They're way better than Google Translate a lot of the time, just because that's what large language models are good at, language. Very often it leads you to dead links. Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure it's just going to lead to a bunch of, it's not going to be like, oh, here's Google Books 1874, treatise on painting by, this person. I think it's just totally made these up. Jerome Painter. Let's see if this is real. Philip Conisby, Jerome the Painter as historian. Does that make sense? The painter as historian? What the fuck does that even mean? It's just... the painter as historian? Jerome, the painter as historian. What? Jean Leon Jerome. Let's just try this. Did you ever write anything about this guy? I don't think it wrote anything. I think that's just totally made up. Let's see if this one exists. Let's just see if Melissa Hartwig exists. It's not even coming up with anything. I don't think any of these people are real. This is one of the worst displays of AI that I've ever seen. I think this is all BS. Yeah, I have seen that. It gives you a source that's related to the subject, and then you look at it, and the quote that it made up is just not at all inside of the subject. It's just, or not inside the source at all. It's so annoying. And I think ChatGPT is specifically really bad at hallucinating. It's way too... It wants to like please you so bad. Okay. So now let's ask it a question. Here, I'm wondering if let me sign up on another window over here. Let me sign up on a fresh email. We'll see if we can get a smarter response out of it. I'm going to change the tune here. Oh, I'm not logged into any emails over here. This is my stream browser. I'm not doing it. I try not to mix work and play, you know? Okay. ChatGPT gave me a completely made up anti-Semitic quote once, and when I asked it to debunk something. ChatGPT reminds me of someone who once read a book about a topic 5 years ago and is trying to convince you he's an expert. It's like talking to somebody on Reddit. It's like having a conversation with somebody on Reddit, and they're arguing about something super specific, but slowly you're just realizing that they've never read anything about what they're talking about. They've just seen like 5 TikToks. All right. I really like the paintings of Bouguereau. I want to learn to paint just like him. How can I study to paint like him? What should I do? That's pretty vague. I feel very confident about Bouguereau because I made a video. One of my first videos on YouTube ever is about Bouguereau. It's not the best production quality video, but it's actually really good research I did there. And so I feel really confident. I've read primary sources about Bouguereau. I really feel super strong about all my facts on Bouguereau. So I want to get a specific question. I want to dial down with GPT in here and just see how quickly it'll lie to me. I think it's going to lie to me pretty much instantly. As soon as I hit enter here, I think it's going to lie. I really like the paintings of Bouguereau. I just want to learn to paint like him. How can I study to paint like him? What should I do? Awesome, you're drawn to Bouguereau, master of realism, light, human anatomy, and depiction of emotion. It made him a towering figure in academic art. You know, again, academic art. Why didn't it mention academic art when I asked it about the 19th century? It's one of the most important things that happened in the 19th century. His meticulous technique and focus on detail, especially in portraying nude figures and portraiture, sets a high bar for technical mastery. Learning to paint like Bouguereau will require a multifaceted approach, combining classical techniques, figure drawing, and a deep understanding of anatomy and lighting. Here's a roadmap to help you with this journey. Study classical techniques. Understand Bouguereau's classical training. Bouguereau was trained at the École des Beaux-Arts, true, in Paris, and his style is deeply rooted in the academic tradition, true. This means precision, anatomy, light, and shadow, and a solid foundation in drawing are paramount. Very true. I think the most important thing here, and Bouguereau says this himself. Let me pull up my notes on Bouguereau from that video. Bouguereau says himself, drawing is the most important skill to master if you want to learn how to paint. Let me look at my quotes here. Here, I can bring you guys onto screen. Okay. Wait, maybe I can use a temporary email? Yeah, let's try using a 10-minute mail. Don't hack my 10-minute mail. It probably won't let me. Oh wait, it's working. Sent an email to 10-minute mail. Oh, I got the verification code. Poop. Poopenheimer. Schmingelbottom. Birthday. 1919. That's my birthday. May 12th, 1919. I too remember my 70th birthday. Okay, wait, we got some more features now. Let's re-ask this now that we're logged in. Did I close the page? All right, now we can let's turn on what are these? Tools? Deep research. Let's turn on deep research and see what it says. We'll get some real sources if we do this way. I love Bouguereau. I want to just learn to paint like him. How do I study, train to become like him? Very simple question. Let's see what we got here. I think Gemini. Wait, this is it? This is deep research? What is this? That's a great goal. Bouguereau is a master of classical realism. Oh, okay. It wants to. All right, never mind. I didn't read it yet. To help tailor the best study plan, could you please share a bit more about your current painting? Wow, this is good. Wait, this is actually good, because if I'm giving critique to anyone, I want to know a little bit about them. I want to know where they are, what their goals are, what their interest is. I'm a complete beginner. I've drawn a bit for fun, but my portraits look so flat, and I don't know how to make them look 3D. This is me when I was 16, and I drew. One of the only things I drew for fun when I was younger, because I didn't really start drawing until I was 19. I got into drawing for like 1 week when I was 16, and I drew a portrait of Kanye, and I was pretty proud of it, to be honest. That didn't age so well. That did not age so well. Kind of picked the worst person to start out my career with. So this is my character. Whether you want to paint, I do want to use all the same materials and methods as Bouguereau. If you're looking for self-study resources or formal instruction like Atelier, I'm open to anything, but I want to be able to recreate his training myself. Oh, this is a much better experience. Or start with whatever. So any specific areas you want to focus on, figure drawing, skin tones. Why? That's such a weird question. Why would you want to focus on skin tones? Like, that's not what painting is. You learn skin tones through learning how to draw, learning about values, learning about the fundamentals that make those things up. Start with whatever I need to get there. Or maybe focus on. All right, deep research. Let's go. I'll put together a comprehensive plan for you to self-study and eventually paint like Bouguereau, starting from a complete beginner level. This will include the materials he used, methods like drawing from casts and from life, and a step-by-step progression that mirrors the 19th century academic atelier system. I'll also look for any available modern resources like books, online courses, schools that replicate his traditional approach. I'll let you know as soon as it's ready. How long is this going to take? I think I did click on this button once and it took like 10 minutes and I was like, fair question, but maybe you suck at color blending. Yeah, but if you suck at colors, then it's like, that's part of like learning to paint, learning to see. You know, first you need to learn how to see values first. And then, you know, if you suck at like, you know, mixing skin tones, I guess the only reason I would ask it like that is if I was talking, you know, to a beginner and you're trying to like, get them to say a keyword that's meaningful to them, but doesn't really actually mean anything in the grand sense, right? So that would make sense. So if it does think that it's talking to a beginner, that would make sense. I don't think it's 5 layers deep like that, though. ChatGPT. Also, one time had the suspicion that someone posting on Reddit was AI bot, so I asked it to pretend to be Misato for an Evangelion to give me a recipe for banana bread, and it worked. That's like, I think if you're still on Twitter, like 80, 90%. Oh my, it already has 8 sources. Site size drawing. Oh, God damn it. Ah! Why you gotta go right to fucking site size, man? Oh, I'm gonna be here all night. Already has 8 sources, though. This is huge. This is so huge. I'm going pee while this happens, bro. Oh my God, we're like a third of the way there. What the fuck is happening? 19 sources. You're gonna collect like 100 sources total? 60 or 80 sources? It smells like oil paint in this room. Let me just say that. Leaving Twitter. I've never been on Twitter to start, brother. I've never been on Twitter to start. Guys, I got this shirt with little ruffles on it from Costco. It's a little bit wrinkly. I'm far stronger than anyone could be because I've just never even cared about going on Twitter. I'd rather kill myself. Time to load up some Nubby. These are some of the images I found while I was doing that research for the Bouguereau video. They had all these drawings of Bouguereau made in the biography that I read about him. The biography was in French. I had to translate it out. But some of these drawings are just so good. They're really, really nice. These are little pencil sketches. This is one actually a cast drawing that Jerome did when he was a student in charcoal and stump in Into the Epicome. It's pretty cool. 1847, really early on. Yeah, 1847 is when he drew that. So Bouguereau actually did like to draw in charcoal. In pencil. But they're small, they're limited value sketches. And then when he got back from Italy, he did a lot of this more classical style work, not realist stuff at all. This is Paul Baudry. It's the guy who won alongside Bouguereau, because Bouguereau didn't win first. He kind of tied for first or whatever. I don't know. Learning French just doesn't seem like it would be very helpful to me if I learned French. I don't got the time for that. Wait, somebody said something. Oh, where'd you get the skeleton from? I got the skeleton on Facebook Marketplace. I met a guy in the medical school parking lot, and it still has all the little stickers on it that say all the insertions and origins and names of where all the muscles are and stuff like that. Those Bouguereau drawings are dope. Oh, what's up, Ben? Yeah, Bouguereau's such a beast, man. The guy was so good. And also too, I have these all these studies that he did back then. We're waiting on our deep research, by the way, everybody, if you're just tuning in. Somebody told me to do deep research. More like deep sleep search. This shit's boring. It takes forever. That's pretty good. Let me pull up some Bouguereau sketches. Apparently Bouguereau was knocking these out in probably 2 sittings, to be honest. Oh, I have some other stuff too that I can show you guys. So I was double checking or just pulling up some of the sources that I have on this information this morning, because I knew I was going to talk about this stuff. So I fully believe that Bouguereau was doing these in 6 hours. Fully believe. Don't hack my 10-minute mail, guys. We're going really, really, really deep into research. I tried to use deep research once, and it was this long too. But we're gonna get 37 sources. This got to be the most accurate information in the world. Okay, I have some cool stuff to show you guys while I do this. Actually, the perfect time for the Wii menu music. So. One article that I really like about Bouguereau's methods is Bouguereau at Work by Mark Walker. This is a fantastically written and well-sourced article. It's got all these footnotes with all the sources. It's very accurate. It totally dispels the notion that Bouguereau worked in some sort of crazy layered method. I use this as one of my primary sources for, or one of my foremost sources for my first video I ever did in this channel. And while I was double checking something today, some of these quotes are really interesting. Paint as you see and be accurate in your drawing. The whole secret of your art is there. If you want to draw and model effectively, you have to see all of the details as well as the whole at the same time. One of the more useful tricks for getting the overall feeling of a painting is to blink your eyes while looking at the model. So I think that's just basically saying squint. Another way they used to write that was screw up your eyes, kind of screw them, which I think is funny. I love this quote by him. But so this I feel like I've never seen this paragraph in here before, and it's not sourced. So I started to look into it. So some of Bouguereau's drawings were rendered with the aid of an optical device known as chamber clair. This instrument, by means of prisms, allowed the tracing of a subject's outlines as closely observed by the artist directly onto a drawing board. Used as an artist might use a photograph today, the chamber clair permitted the artist to readily and quickly reproduce certain details of nature, which could be used later in the studio's details for a painting. So this is basically a camera obscura, which is a device you can it's like a little lens that you can look through that will basically project what you're looking at down onto your page so that you can trace it. I've never read about Bouguereau using one of these before, or really any tracing going on from some of these academics, and it seems to me like they would be highly against that. And this article is so well written, and I really respect Mark Walker, but this isn't sourced at all. So I was really confused by that. So I did some looking. First off, I could not find anything that mentioned that. Just straight up. Could not find any sources at all that mentioned that. There are some, references to this. So one reference is this. Let me transfer it over here. So this is in French, and it's very wordy, and it took me a while to kind of even figure out what it was talking about. We can use ChatGPT to translate it, which I think that translation is the best use of ChatGPT. Oh, wait. Well, I'm already on another topic, ChatGPT. Hello? Bring me. Okay, we'll get back to that. We'll get back to Bouguereau tracing. I'm collecting too many tabs here. All right, so we have oh my God. How many sources do we have? Oh, wait. Oh, but it's like there. Oh, it did source. This is the article I was just mentioning. This is a really great article. It's sourcing the same thing multiple times. That's fine. This is a great source, actually. One of the best sources by Bouguereau. So let's see if the deep research feature is a little bit better. Please don't start fanboying AI. I've been shitting on it this entire stream. I've been shitting on it insanely hard. Oh, you're probably talking about that other guy. The problem is I think with AI is it's like a training data thing. So it's really hard to find more data to actually train this stuff on. I think, again, it's useful for stuff that's like super surface level, and then you can double check. You ask annoying, dumb questions to AI and kind of get a general overview maybe, and then you just double check that information with someone who knows what they're talking about. Unfortunately, it's horribly bad at art, and it's never probably going to not be horribly bad at art because there's so much art information online. All right, let's see the training plan. This guide lays out a step-by-step atelier-style training plan inspired by Bouguereau to develop drawing and oil painting skills is organized in progressive phases, each with concrete goals and recommended practices, assumes no prior experience. References to Bouguereau's own process and modern academic practice are included for guidance. Foundational drawing. This is phase 1, baby. Begin by learning to draw basic shapes, lines, and simple still lifes. Practice copying simple objects, cube spheres to build hand-eye coordination, and ensure you master perspective, 1-point or 2-point, and value scales, smooth the light and dark transition. These exercises lay out the groundwork for representational accuracy. As Bouguereau advised, be accurate in your drawing. The whole secret of your art is here. So this is, it's kind of true. They did in the 19th century, like, especially if you look at like the Russians, you can look at the Russian instructional books from like the mid 19th century, Sapochnikov's book, and they do teach children to draw, geometric forms, cones and cylinders and boxes. In France, they were a little bit more laissez-faire with this stuff, and they did some plate copying for kids where they would copy engravings, and they did a lot of cast drawing. That was mostly it. They did do the perspective stuff, I'm sure, but that was moving out of fashion into the late 19th century. I think it was the super technical draftsman as a beginning, and lots of foreigners were coming over without that type of experience and just started out drawing from the casts like everybody else and progressed just fine. So of course they studied perspective as they went as well. Oh no, I just saw the next word, sight size. I can't do a whole debunking here because it's such a big problem, but so first is like, yeah, it's okay. I wouldn't really recommend it because I think it's boring and it's not really a great way to learn. And that's not what they did that much in Académie Julian as well, which is where Bouguereau taught. But this is reasonable, and it is based in history, and people did do this. This is just wrong. I only read the title, and it's just wrong. Progress to copying plaster casts or statues of charcoal or medium tone paper. It's a traditional sight size method. Set up the casts and your drawing surface so they appear the same size from a fixed viewpoint. It links Wikipedia here. Use vine or willow charcoal and white chalk on paper. White chalk to capture the full range of light and shadow in grayscale. Casts, white gypsum models, let you concentrate on form and value without color. That's true. The goal is to produce finished drawings where forms are fully modeled only when these charcoal studies are convincingly rendered and checked for accuracy should you move on. At this stage, you should also copy classical drawing plates from Bargue. That's very true to draw proportion and tonal rhythm. Figure, Bouguereau style life study, male nude, charcoal on tinted paper. Students replicate this by sight-size drawing of live models or casts. So we know very specifically how people in the French Academy is trained, and there is no mention of sight size. Sight size, there's people out there who are going to argue with me to the death about this. Sight size was something that maybe some artists used throughout history, but it was not taught as an academic principle. There's so much. The only type of measurement they did was called comparative measurement, and there is so much information out there specifically about using your hand and your pencil to count head heights, to measure, compare the width to the height of something. They did that all the time. Never see people talking about sight size. Some artists like John Singer Sargent did later on in the early 20th century. Okay, this guy's getting banned. You guys are... Let me go to the Jake Don't Draw stream and start talking about Middle Eastern conflicts. The world needs to hear this. The world needs to hear this. Jake Don't needs to know about these Middle Eastern conflict conspiracy theories. I didn't even read it. Now, here's the problem. I can't clear the chat off my screen. How do I, The stream crashed. I think it's good. It seems like it's up for me. Maybe it skipped a frame. Here's the problem. Now I got some guy talking about fucking Israeli propaganda or whatever on my fucking screen. I need a button. I was thinking this before stream started. I need a button to fucking clear this shit off my screen. Oh, but it's on the actual stream. Alright, wait. Pregnant man emoji. Let me drop a few of these in chat. The world works together. That way when I cut this up as a VOD or something. What was I talking about? There's no so later on in the early 20th century, Sargent does talk a few times about making sure that when you back up, the model is the exact same size as the surface of the canvas and that they line up properly. That way, that way you can just transfer the measurements over horizontally, and it makes the whole process easier. Sargent specifically said in that quote, when working at life size for full figures. So that does make sense to me as something easy to use to help line up your proportions while working full size. But he studied in the studio of Duran, and Duran used comparative measurement. It's very pretty easily provable. Let me see if I have a quote on hand about that, just so I can... I don't doubt that people backed up and looked at their art from a distance, and sometimes the scale was similar so they could check stuff. But, there's a lot of blogs out there that say everybody did this in this exact way using this site size technique, when that's just provably, easily not the case. And ChatGPT is going to scroll all those blogs, and it's not going to, filter out what is actually verifiable and what is not. It's going to weigh everything the same. And that's kind of like a really big problem, I think, with it in research. Where am I here? Teaching quotes. That's a good Duran quote. Oh, we can, this one's kind of close enough. Let me just check a couple others before I read that. I'll pull this one on too. Let's see, is this relevant? He drew it on the canvas in charcoal and had fixed it before the beginning of the paint. The drawing of it was interesting as the painting of all materials known to art. None enable skillful fingers to produce an effect more instantaneously than soft charcoal on a half-prime canvas. So, by the way, this is Sargent's teacher, Corliss Duran. Darks of velvety depth may be obtained in the first moment and modeled with a finger touch into the most delicate halftones appreciable in a second. I confess that I, for one, expected to see a vivid presentment of the model leap into life on the canvas. Under one may be permitted for once in a way to say the Promethean touch of a master. But no, the drawing proceeded as one began to grasp in meaning. It became very obvious that he was reserving all effect for the painting, towards which the sternest preparation, blah, blah, blah. Oh, here it is, actually. With the care of a general who surveys the ground on which he is about to hazard battle. I hate that I just said Basil. With the care of a general who surveys the ground on which he is about to hazard battle, did Corollas place his masses in lines, rubbing out occasionally, making alterations, and holding up the stick of charcoal between his eyes and the model to take measurements, as humble as any tyro setting out on his first drawing from the antique. Ain't no site size, just normal ass drawing. You hold up you do the thumbs up, the Pip-Boy, and you get basic measurements. Nothing wrong with site size if that's what you want to do, but it's not the way that Bouguereau worked, and it's not the way that any of these academics worked. So it's just wrong. And that's our second claim, right? So it's like kind of frustrating that like how pervasive that's going to be. Next, begin life drawing from nude models. Start with quick gesture sketches, 30 to 60 seconds to capture poses, then longer poses, several minutes to hours to refine anatomy and tonal modeling. Several minutes to hours? Like, again, like it's a very standard 12-hour pose. Like, oh, I saw Ben say you're going to love number 4. Oh, no. Grisaille underpainting. Yeah, this is what I expected. So I made an account. I waited 8 minutes for this to do a search so it could pull 80 sources. I probably drained a lake of water to power this thing. And it's going to spit out the same dog shit answers that it gave me in the stupider no account version. Like, this is all the same stuff. It's wrong. The pose timing is wrong. Site size measurements is wrong. This is kind of right, but it's just it's kind of, I don't know. Grisaille underpainting. Before adding color, train with monochrome oil studies on small canvases or boards. Lay in a single color underpainting a grisaille, typically in neutral gray or brown tone, mapping all the lights and darks. This establishes values and forms with oil as much as in charcoal, but on the eventual painting surface. Work in a lean medium, turpentine plus minimal oil paint so that paint dries quickly. Bouguereau's oil sketches of heads and hands were done to a high finish on warm gray grounds. That's true. Often used directly in the final painting. Yeah, that's true, but why is it in this paragraph? By the end of this phase, you should be able to model the human form in oil, no color, with a firm control of lights and darks. So this is just not the way that people would study. It's just not the way that people study. Again, if you want to do monochrome painting, that's fine. For some people, that's a really nice step into painting because they're not confident in their drawing skills, but they really want to paint. If that's the way you want to do it, that's fine. It's not the way that was taught to Bouguereau. It's not the way that was taught in the French School of Fine Arts, in Picot's atelier, or in Académie Julian, where Bouguereau studied. They did not do grisailles. You won't find any grisailles from there. I will show you a grisaille. It's this one. This is Bouguereau's painting Nymphs and Satyrs. Here's a grisaille study that Bouguereau did. But here's the thing. Bouguereau's painting, his final work, is massive. It's like at least 8 feet tall, probably taller than that, maybe 12 feet. It's a huge painting. This thing is the size of a sketchbook page. It's a study. It's a value study. It's not a grisaille. It's just something used to study, you know, how the lights and darks in the image are going to flow. And that's everyone does value studies, whether it's in charcoal or in oil paint. That's totally perfectly fine. But Bouguereau would have not began a painting like this or a study like. Do I still have some of those studies up? Fuck, I gotta. So many folders. William Adolphe Bouguereau, high-res portraits. I close my tabs and then I need my tabs. And now you know why I don't close my tabs. So Bouguereau would not have began a finished painting like this, or any of his studies like these, which he was able to do in probably only 1 or 2 sittings, like 6 hours. He would not have been able to. That type of time span, that type of efficiency, it's not something you're going to start with a black and white painting or an only gray painting. You can tell in some of these, Bouguereau was a little bit more old school in his approach. He liked to fill in all of his shadows with brown. That's just a convenient way of speeding up the process and working. So a lot of people were really over it in the late 19th century when Bouguereau was doing these. A lot of people didn't do that at all. Some people did like to paint like that. If you like to paint like that, that's fine. But all the skin tones are just painted by putting the color on the canvas. Pretty darn thick, too, on a coarse weave canvas. Very coarse canvas. So, local color oil painting. Introduce color on top of grisaille. Begin with a limited palette. On a small still life or portrait study, follow fat over lean. This is just general online painting advice. It has nothing to do with Bouguereau. Practice building opacity with opaque color using thicker oil medium to cover the grisaille. Then glaze within. If you're going to cover your grisaille entirely, then why did you do it? Why did he do it? Why would you, if you want to do a grisaille, why would you then cover it entirely with opaque paint? I don't really get that. The whole point, I think, of doing a grisaille or some sort of layered approach is that you can keep building it up, keep adding layers on top, and you see that transparency down to the bottom gives you sometimes more saturated colors or more interesting effects, or you can build things up in a certain way. But if you're just going to paint opaquely on top of it, then you pretty much just wasted all of your time doing that. Then glaze with thin translucent color layers. By now, you should understand color temperature and mixing. How? I guess from the grays and browns, you could maybe learn some of that, but you haven't really laid out any of that. You also haven't laid out where you would be doing this or in what time frame you would be doing this. Again, in the schools, it was 24-hour-long painting poses. Normally, the drawings were 12 to 24 hours. They're happening in the same room, so the more advanced students were just painting. This is what Atelier Bouguereau looked like, right? This is cropped. Come on. This is what Atelier Bouguereau looked like. You have all these students. These students are newer or intermediate in the beginning. They're doing charcoal drawings. The students are more advanced in the back, standing up at easels. They are painting, looking over the tops. They got a second model in the background here, and this room is just completely packed with people. 6 days a week. That's how it goes. Advanced layering and glazing. Finally, learn the multi-layered academic oil technique. That doesn't exist. That just doesn't exist in the 19th century. There's no such thing. There's no one set technique, multi-layered academic oil technique. What are you talking about? On a prime mid-tone canvas, again, people generally preferred to work at this time in the academic institutions on white. Everything that I've read, most people like to just start on white. They didn't do the fancy, super saturated orange backgrounds. It was just a white canvas. Actually, you can even see that in the little study here. You can see that in this study. I mean, maybe there's a wash over here, but like these pinholes are just white in the canvas. This is just, I think it's just a white canvas. And Bouguereau liked to work on a warm gray, so just a very light gray, which was very common as well. But mostly for the students, they were told to just paint on white to keep it very simple, to focus on the color itself. No excuses for the students. Then gradually refine with paint using palette knives, smooth. Transfer a full-size drawing. They did the drawings directly on the paintings too. God, I have to stop every half sentence. I have to stop and correct it. I'm still listening to the Wii menu theme, thank you. Wait, where's my... Do my... Images. Assorted collections. Unsorted. My unsorted folder. I'm digging, guys. I'm digging. I'm digging. Dude, I'm gonna find this. Fuck. Is that painting even in here? Now that I'm thinking about it. I might not be finding this. I have a great example. Wait, eBay? Nope, that's somebody else. Why are my files not loading? Diggy Diggy Hole. Wait, that's a banger song. All right, I'm losing it. Really? Where is that? Dude, I have this painting. I got it. We found it on eBay. And it's fire. And it's like a half-finished painting. You can see the charcoal drawing underneath. Ramon's got some other that are similar on the website too. Oh, here it is. Here it is. Here it is. Oh my god, I'm goated. Boom. I wish I could skip over this part. I wish I could skip over cut your head clean off. How about that? I found this one on eBay. This is a painting from one of the ateliers. And you can see it's painted from top to bottom, very typical. And look at this drawing that's underneath it. This is not some sort of fancy transfer drawing. It's not some sort of fancy transfer drawing. This is just, this is crazy, right? This absolutely insane drawing. So it's not some sort of delicate transfer process. You would use a transfer process normally for, like a compositional work that you planned out. Oh, look how long this is. Holy shit, I can't. It's all wrong. Everything is wrong. And gradually refine with paint using palette knife smoothings for a flat... Using palette knife smoothings. What does that mean? You scrape with a palette knife after it dries to smooth it out, yes. What is palette knife smoothings? Then let each layer dry, then apply multiple glazes to enrich color and depth. It's just not something that was common in academic practice. Bouguereau did certainly glaze and use thin, washi techniques and use glazing and stuff. Again, this is mature work. It's not how he would have... painted, and it's not how he would have built up the painting in most ways. A picture varnish or Damar oil was sometimes used. Again, it's just throwing these random facts into here that don't actually really relate to anything. Like, a picture varnish was sometimes used, okay. Like, yeah, what this is referring to is that he had these specific medium mixes where he would mix varnish and oil and solvent and these weird ingredients together in order to achieve the right consistency. But it's just throwing in one of those like some random fact, and it doesn't relate to anything. It's not giving any context for it. Aim for a polished, jewel-like finish in your final pieces. No. And by the end of the phase, you will have created a full-scale figure painting using classic academic... No. You have created a full-scale figure painting using... By the end of this phase, you have created a full-scale figure painting using classic academic practice. It's just not true. It's just not true. I did the same thing with Rembrandt, but similar, but not egregious as this one. Mostly generic blog stuff. Lots of sourcing ARC. I mean, like, the ARC sources are probably going to be by far the best. But yeah, it's just like... Google Books is so good. There's so much good stuff on like Google Books. But it doesn't... It only pulls from blogs and stuff. I wonder if it's like not supposed to be able to take stuff from Google Books. Drawing mediums, compressed charcoal pencils. No, they were Conte pencils. All this is fine. Paper, very specific paper. It'd be laid paper. He did like use tone paper. That's fine. Yeah, he did like to use graphite, linen, or cotton canvas. Were they using cotton in the 19th century? I don't know. Probably, yeah, actually. Primate glue and earth tone ground. No, you've already said earlier that he used a warm gray ground, which is correct. Earth tone ground is not... I don't think Bouguereau really used that very much. Hog bristle brushes is very true. Sable or camel for details. This is specifically written in the article. This is a good one, actually. This is a funny quote. Specifically in the article that it's sourcing here. So it sources this article many times. Bouguereau at work. It's a great article. And then it says that it's using soft sable or camel hairs brushes for details. But you go to the article and you look up the part about brushes. The finely modeled flesh tones in his paintings led many critics to accuse Bouguereau of relying too heavily on badger blending. So a badger hairbrush was they used badger hair, which was very soft apparently, in order to make these really delicate brushes, maybe like a makeup brush to smooth everything out, right? So people seeing how soft Bouguereau's work would accuse him of badger brushing. And so this is Bouguereau's, according to Emile Bayard, there has been talk of badger blending, which still amuses the artist since he's never resorted to this technique. So, judging from photographs of the painter in the studio, which there are many, it appears to have standard, round, and flat white bristle brushes commonly used for oil painting. Corinth observed the artist generally used preferred wide brushes, and he used a palette knife for scumbling color into landscape passages. For painting fine details, he held his hand up against a mahl stick. Also about the glazing thing, the glazed passages in painting are primarily limited to darker portions, particularly backgrounds and drapery. Conversely, the flesh tones are solid and achieve their translucence by means of careful modeling and precise observation of values and color notes. So pretty much the opposite of everything that it's told us. And it knows that because it's cited that source 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. It cited the same source, but it's wrong in like almost all this shit. So yeah, there's not much more to say. All right, there's not much more to say. I can't. I'm gonna lose my mind if I keep going over this. Actually, it's frustrating. It's really frustrating because it looks so good, and you could be a beginner artist, and you're looking to step up. You're getting the AI Google search thing, and it's giving you tips. You're coming to ChatGPT, and it feels really strong, but then it doesn't actually give you anything that's real. It will give you a bunch of sources and then directly contradict itself, and it's just going to lead you down kind of a really difficult path. This is funny. New Masters Academy. It straight up promotes New Masters Academy, ARC website and YouTube channel. Wait, did you hear about Jake Don't Draw talking about the ARC salon? Let's see if it heard. Yeah, they use mahl sticks all the time. Yes, Jake Don't Draw stirred up quite a buzz with his video, How AI Tricked the World's Largest Painting Competition, where he dives into allegations surrounding an AI-generated entry that had received an honorable mention in the ARC Center's 17th International ARC Salon. It's a good video. Wait, this is pretty good. Reviews a controversial piece, The Witchling, that's right. Points out these use telltale AI artifacts. Wait, this is good. Oh, it's pulling from the guy who wrote a blog about it, I think. Wait, praises the ARC subsequent retraction of the award after converging. No, I didn't. I didn't praise fucking ARC. They lied. Yeah, they use mahl sticks all the time. There's a funny story about, I don't remember exactly who it was, but there was one teacher who really insisted that all of his students use mahl sticks, which, for those of you who don't know, mahl sticks are just like, it's just a long piece of wood, normally with some like cloth around the end tied up into a ball, and you can lean it up against your painting, and then you can base your arm off of it to get more stability and make more precise strokes. So there was one teacher who really was insistent that all his students use mahl sticks, and his students were lazy and didn't feel like getting them. So one day he says, like, next time I come in here, basically, y'all better have mahl sticks. And the next time he comes in, only one of them has a mahl stick. And so the teacher walks over to the first student, and he's basically doing, a semicircle around the room, critiquing each of the students. And the students pass that guy the mahl stick before he walks up. And he shows the teacher his mahl stick, and he's like, oh, nice, very good. And he critiques his painting. And then he walks over to the next guy, and the first student behind the teacher's back passes the second guy the mahl stick. And they carry that chain as he walks to the next one. They keep passing the mahl stick behind the teacher's back. And the teacher's like, wow, I'm so impressed you all actually listened to my advice and got mahl sticks. So, yeah, it's the same way that I use a mahl stick. I don't, but I should. But I don't because I'm lazy. Also, I paint in a computer chair a lot of the time, so I normally will just plant my elbow, which is kind of helpful, or I'll put it on the table or something, so I'm sitting. Very helpful if you're standing, though. Wait, the former archer commented. Wait, does it read the comments too? Acknowledging more questionable pieces were found. And plotting a call for a better... This is written by the judge. Oh, I read the description too. Pretty thorough. Why can't you be this thorough when it comes to Buguro? Oh, over 70,000. This is old cash too. Are you angry at AI because of stupid methods to start drawing and painting, or because historical facts are wrong? It's important to know that all this historical facts to become good at painting. No, it's not important to know the historical facts. Like the history stuff is just interesting to me, and I think it builds out like a wider philosophy behind teaching and how we should teach people to make stronger artists and what that means to the past. But you don't, as a student, you don't have to know all that stuff. If you just want to get an education, you should be able to just go and get an education. The problem is that all the schools or all the websites and all these blogs are run by people that spew misinformation, and I think that type of stuff really corners people into these techniques that stunt people's growths and are very, just very frustrating to deal with, because it's not. At the same time, they'll appeal to the history, to the 19th century people. They'll say that they are classical techniques, and then they'll teach, stuff like site size, which I already went over a few minutes ago, why that wasn't something that was actually used. Or they'll do, really delicate graphite rendering, and again, that was not what Buguro did draw with graphite, but everyone in Academy Julian, which is where he taught with charcoal, which is the same way that Buguro learned how to draw with charcoal. So you get kind of pinholed into these like falsehoods that stack up and stack up and stack up, and it starts to like become a detriment to the education system as a whole. And that's really what frustrates me. That's really what frustrates me. So not important for you guys to know the history specifically. I just think it's fun to talk about. And you got to look at a lot of great art in order to get good at painting. That's certainly true. So it does help, and it's fun. But really, I would love a world where people could just walk into a studio and get a decent education, just like, walking into like a martial arts, gym or whatever, dojo or whatever, where, I wanted to learn jiu-jitsu. You can just learn, walk into school, they're going to teach you the basic drills, you do your rolling, just like you should be able to walk into, an atelier, and it's like, okay, start with some cast drawing, maybe some plate copying, and then we'll just do a bunch of life drawing, and it's just like a place that you can keep showing up for years and years and improving your skills, and maybe have little competitions and stuff like that to get people to improve. I wish kind of art had like a belt system sometimes, like I keep hitting the starting soon button. I wish art had a belt system like martial arts sometimes. Yeah. So I think that's all my thoughts on that. That's the docket for today, boys. And non-boys. The two genders. What belt would I have, Jake? So it goes white. Oh, there's stripes too, right? So it's like white, blue, purple, brown, black, right? So at the gym that I was at, it's funny because this problem does exist in the martial arts world. So I did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for like a year. So the belts have progression, so you can get like 1 stripe, 2 stripe, 3 stripe, 4 stripe, and then you can test up to blue. That's how it goes, and you have to pass the test. You can do the test multiple times. The martial arts world has this problem though, the same problem, where they call them McDojos, where you can just pay money to test into a higher belt basically, and every time you test they make you pay a bunch of money, and it's super rigged. So they actually do, it's probably very similar, just to kind of how a lot of, I think art schools became very commercialized and, cheapened some of the technique and respect for it. And so I went to a really good one though, just randomly. And generally it took about 2 years for the student to get a blue belt for the first time. That's a normal pace. And I say all the time with art, it's like, the first 2 years, you're an idiot. No matter how good you think you're getting, first 2 years is really, that's how long it takes to just learn basic things about how to see. I think it took me about 2.5 years. I was slow because I was self-taught. So, yeah, I think it took me about 2.5 years in order to move past that beginner stage, to learn the basics of just how to see what was in front of me, how to see values, how to get reasonable proportions. And then it takes a few years within blue belt. You can kind of progress a little bit faster. I'm not sure 100%. I'm not a martial arts guy. A few years to get your purple belt, and then a few more years to get your brown belt, and a few more years to get your black belt. Around the purple belt stage, normally those guys will start to do some teaching the basics. So I'm probably, in the purple belt and the deep purple belts, maybe. And then again, when you're in the black belt, you can get the degrees on that. I think you can become like a 10th degree black belt. It changes between different martial arts. So like a 10th degree black belt or whatever, there's only like 3 of those in the world or something like that. I don't know if that's true at all. Give us all belts. Maybe I should start giving people belts. That'd be kind of funny. Taekwondo is different belts: white, yellow, orange, blue, green, blue, red, brown, black. Goddamn. Should take no less than 10 years for a black, but a lot of places are McDojos. Yeah. How to tell. At some point, you have to get training. Like, this is like kind of the shitty part. At some point, you have to get advice from people who are better than you, get critique, have some sort of structure. I worked a job. I saved up money. I, bought courses and did online classes and did recorded classes and practiced for years. At some point, it definitely helps to pay to sit down with a professional and get feedback on your work. Just find somebody you like, I think. I trained for 2 years, 9 classes a week. Holy fuck! I was just about to get my blue belt before I got a back injury in competition. But my coach is one of the top guys in Europe. Is that BJJ or a different martial art? 9 classes a week is crazy. Give me a belt. I don't want to be mean to people. That's the thing. People are very sensitive. I had a black belt friend before college. When he sparred, he was closer to a green belt. Most schools are really some schools are really hardcore, and then a lot of schools are like, it's the McDojo thing. And especially for kids, it's just more about like having fun and getting exercise and wringing the parents out of all the money they have by making them pay for belts. And the kids really want to do the tests and the belts and stuff like that. So yeah, yeah. Jake. This is probably the end of the stream, y'all. Just a nice little 3-hour white belt. Hit me with the truth row. What belt would I have to Katie? I don't want to answer these questions. I can't answer these questions. Dude, I love the people in my Discord. I can't be making enemies. There's a study that was done. I love you all. You're all black belts. You all have a black belt of my love. How about that? I'm not getting no one belts. So everyone's gonna start asking. Everyone's gonna get mad at me. They go, "You're not a purple belt. You're a blue belt." And then everyone's gonna start shitting on me. It's just not gonna go well. Do you think AI would be useful of giving accurate, useful criticism of somebody's work? No. Whatever word jargon it can sometimes form a coherent sentence on when it does, the research onto the historical stuff. It's sometimes okay because it has some stuff to grasp onto, but with like a picture, with critique, I think that it's going to be a total mess. Let me throw one of my drawings into here. Let me throw a drawing of mine into here. And I'll ask it to give me a belt, too. Photos of my art. Which one? Okay. Here's one of my completed drawings, my Germanicus drawing. Okay, this is my completed... whoops. So here's one of my completed drawings. I'm going to throw it into ChatGPT, and I'm going to see what it wants to give me for a critique. Should I give it the reference photo too? I feel like that's what I would do if I was giving it to a real person. All right, let me give the reference photo. I think... Is this reference on my site? Is this one on Halftone, guys? I know we have. Yeah, I think it is. Guys, halftonestudio.art for all of your portrait reference, drawing reference needs, for your master artist inspiration, for your articles. We have some great articles about Barg and about this person. It's just about French academies. My brain's fucking melting right now. Sorry. Where's Germanicus? Oh, it's right here. Yeah, it's this one. So let me self-critique. My guy's a little bit thick. He's a little bit thicker, a little bit more muscular. Other than that, perfect drawing, no mistakes, okay? Just to get that out there. Let me get off deep research, new chat. So here is my drawing in the reference photo. What critique do you have of my drawing of this reference photo? How can I get better / improve it? So I think that this is going to be a complete mess. Before I read this, it just doesn't have anything to grasp onto, so it's just going to throw a bunch of random art jargon at it like it did with the history stuff, which, you know, it's going to sound right on the surface level. It's going to be like, think about structure, think about values, think about, proportions, because it's going to recognize that it's a figure drawing and a somewhat academic figure drawing, but it's not going to be able to give anything substantive on that. And this is really bothers me because sometimes I'll see like complete beginners critiquing other people, and they'll do the same thing. They'll AI it. They're their own AI models, where they'll be like, you really need to think about values and your proportions and like getting the right gradations of light and dark right. And it's like, yeah, that's technically true, but what you're saying doesn't help anyone at all. It's not specific. It's not about some sort of wider philosophy that they should approach it with, or it's not about some sort of directly tangible thing that you know how to implement. So let's see if that's what ChatGPT does. This is a strong and ambitious academic drawing of the Germanicus cast. I'm not sure if it read the file name there, or it just recognized that. You're clearly studying seriously and tackling complex values and forms. Here is a detailed critique broken down into what's working, what can be improved, and with suggestions on how to do so. Just doing the compliment sandwich. A little bit of work, what works well, a little bit of what needs to be improved, a little bit of compliment in the bottom, a little compliment sandwich. What you're doing well. Good overall proportion and pose. Gesture reads clear and matches the reference well. Major anatomical forms like the ribcage, pelvis, and limbs are positioned solidly. Confident handlings of shadow shapes. The core shadow and cast shadows are clearly and broadly blocked in. There's good intent of differentiating between light and shadow, which is crucial in classical drawing. It's true. Attention to planar structure. You've tried to capture how light moves across the form, especially in areas like the abdomen, thighs, and arms. I mean, it's true. Is it actually looking at my drawing though? Because most drawings are going to have rendering in the abdomen, thighs, and arms, and that's just what a body has. Areas for improvement: shape, accuracy, and edges. Some contours, the right arm this is specific. The right arm and left thigh are slightly off compared to the cast. This affects the believability of the volume. Fix. Use more sight size. What? Come on! Why you gotta sneak that in there just to piss me off, dude? Squint and compare negative space. Try overlapping a transparent tracing layer digitally to compare contours. Okay. So, what did it say? The right arm and left thigh. So right arm, Left thigh. Like, I'm sure that, like, I'm thick for sure, but it didn't say that. It said the contour is off. Like, the angles of these are probably pretty darn good, pretty decent. Like, the contour is probably reasonably close. I mean, more specific, it would have been, it's too thick. But it's trying to rage bait me, okay? And then also, like, overlaying digital stuff. I think that is a nice way to check your accuracy sometimes. I'm becoming less of a fan of it, though, because I really feel like drawing is so much more than the quest for, like, photographically reproducing the exact contours. When instead, I think there's some level of, like, having a sense of character in art. So this is actually something the other week, when I did a stream and I had some angry comments at me, there's a point in the stream I actually want to talk about. Let me find that. Because I found this really, sometimes when I get like weird comments, I'll watch back what I said and go, did I sound like a loser in this, or did I sound crazy in this? And most times that I've done that, Whiplash. I've been like, no, I didn't actually really sound all that unreasonable here. So let's do that. Whiplash. So there's one point where I talk about my own drawing in this. And this really surprised me. How to do it? Oh, this is right. Here it is. Like, So I was talking about my drawing of this guy. I did the same drawing as this cast, and I said I have a more accurate drawing than this, French academic pose. But I stopped mine and I didn't finish it because I felt like I lost a lot of the character, the spirit, the feeling of the model, or, the gesture of the pose, the character of the model. I felt like mine felt very stiff. Even though it was more accurate, it felt very stiff and very belabored over. And I didn't like that feeling. It wasn't what I was trying to capture that this example drawing on the right does so incredibly well. And some people in the chat after this were like, this guy's glazing himself. That sort of hubris is going to be the end of him. And I was like, watching that back, I'm realizing like, whoa, some people got an entirely different interpretation of what I was trying to say. It doesn't take that much skill at all. I mean, it does take, it's hard, drawing's hard. But like anyone, a monkey can learn how to get the angles of everything right and to get it super duper accurate, like tracing, or even using sight size or using a camera obscura. Anyone can get that type of stuff right. But if it's stiff, if it lacks some of the feeling of the model, the gesture of the pose, the essence that makes this drawing on the right really, really, really good, then it's not as successful. Right? That's the point I was trying to get across. And you can see that this guy on the right, it's a fantastic, beautiful drawing. That head is really stretched out. It's longer than the reference on the left. And the neck's probably connected a little bit differently. It's a little bit more awkward. The face isn't exactly right. There should be maybe more top of the head or something like that, right? So the point isn't just always in drawing to get the most mechanical accuracy possible. So, like, I do think that overlaying your drawing with a reference is a great way to check sometimes. But I think the further into drawing you get, the less it becomes about just getting the right contour exactly, the right angles. There's much more to drawing than that. Value range and modulation. The drawing flattens a bit because midtones and halftones are not fully developed. Shadows are too uniformly dark, and some halftones in the light are underused. Fix, develop more subtle halftones in the lights. Look at the top planes of the right foot or upper chest where the light turns slowly. Keep reflected lights and shadows subtle, slightly lighter but subdued. Right now, your shadows are overly harsh or lack internal form. I don't think there's any form inside of these shadows other than maybe the side of the neck here could be improved a little bit. I think the values are pretty good with my drawing. And I think, if anything, this drawing needs less modeling and not more. You know, you look at a drawing like this, you'll see much less modeling than mine, but more clever use of it. Better transitions around the edges of things, but actually emptier lights. You know, it's always hard not to overmodel. So I disagree with that. Shadow, light, edge control. The Terminator, the boundary between the light and dark, is too sharp in some areas, and that's there's supposed to be soft transitions, abdomen and deltoid. Abdomen. It could be a little softer here, a little bit lighter in value. I'd agree. And deltoid here or here? I totally disagree with that, especially if it's talking about this, which is a cast shadow. It's going to naturally have a stronger shadow edge. So I think that that doesn't make sense. Jake, if you're drawing flat in the table, it warps things. 100%. Yeah, I tell people that in my course. You know, always prop up your drawing, a couple books on the end. When I'm doing this drawing is 18 by 24, so it's very large. I use a tabletop easel and I draw mostly flat, or I put it on my knees and I lean it up against the edge of a table. Very important. It's impossible to draw that large sitting flat on a table. Material and surface quality. Blah, blah, blah. Tone paper with white chalk, blah, blah, blah. Anatomical landmarks are mostly pleasant, but small forms around the elbow pits or ASIS areas lack precise volume and rhythm. I don't know about that. I do think that some issues with my drawing, I don't hit all the small forms very well. I think I tend to hit the big forms very well, but I struggle on the smaller forms. So I do think that is true in some ways, but I think that these are just collections of words that sound good and are associated with my drawing, but when it comes to actually being helpful, I think they would really, I'm not sure how much they would help. And I think critique is more, most critiques are absolutely worthless on the internet. Critique is more than just telling people, oh, that's a little bit off, it's a little bit too dark, it's a little bit too light, because they're going to end up just shuffling stuff around forever. Critiques are more about understanding the person's intent, their goals, why they're doing what they're doing, and the way that they're achieving it, and how you can affect, their philosophy in approaching that, and what type of practice can affect that on a larger, more systemic scale. Copy bark plates, I actually would agree with that. That's a good drawing practice. Spend a day only measuring and blocking shapes. I did for this, I do for most drawings. And another full day only mapping shadows. You probably don't need a full day just for that if you already have the block in. Then separate, that's true. Edge hierarchy practice. Practice edges, sure. I just do that while practicing the bark plates, the same thing. Definitely on the right path. You're drawing solid. What? If this was a martial arts gym and there were belts that were white, blue, purple, brown, black with stripes, what belt do you think I would get? I would hold in this gym of drawing? Thanks for your critique. No problem, Peter. Jake, if you draw... somebody said something about that. My friend feels like they can't draw anything and ends up always doing everything wrong. Welcome to drawing. It's frustrating, it's difficult, and that's just what it is. I think just having precise, goals or practice is really good. Having some sort of teacher can be really helpful, or lessons. And you just have to push through. You have to keep practicing. If you get super caught up on like, oh, I suck every single time, it's going to be really draining. And it is that way anytime you do anything. I've been learning how to change the oil in my car. The first time, and I'm doing like basic, mechanic work in my car just because I want to learn how to do this stuff. And the first time I changed my oil, the wind was blowing really hard, and I didn't think about that. And so it starts, the oil comes out of the car and then it goes into the catch pan or the drip pan. And the wind started splattering it all over the place. I got a bunch on the ground because it was catching it midstream. And then I got up and I was put my funnel into there, and I started pouring the oil can into a spare container, and the funnel was kind of unstable and it knocked over, and I got a bunch of oil on the ground. And then while I was kind of panicking to clean that up, I knocked over another full bottle of oil and I spilled a bunch of fucking oil on the ground. Now I know next time I did an oil change, how to manage this stuff a little bit better so that I wouldn't spill a bunch of oil on the ground. And I did. The next time I did an oil change, it wasn't windy. I got everything into the funnels just fine. I took the plug out, and the oil started coming out, and I even got the plug out without getting any on my hand, which is it's challenging to do. A lot of times you get a bunch of oil in your hand, it'll drip around. I was feeling really good, and then I looked at my oil catch pan, and it's this type of pan that has kind of like a big funnel on top, and then it's got a container underneath that it drains down the funnel into, and then you can seal the top of the funnel, so that way you can pick it up and bring it into your car or whatever after you're done, and then pour it off into containers or whatever. And I'm looking at the funnel of it, and it's filling up really, really quick. And I'm like, why the fuck is that filling up really quick? And then I realized I never took the lid off of the funnel. So it just, as soon as it started draining out of my car, it just filled up the funnel and just started spilling all over the fucking ground because I never took the fucking drain plug out. So then I had to put my hand, I was super proud of myself for like 3 seconds. I was like, oh shit. And I had to put my hand into the oil, like 2 inches deep of it, and pull the plug out. And then it started draining down, and there's like fucking 2 quarts of oil into the ground. And I had to go buy some like oil cleanup powder and put that down in a broom and sweep that up. And so now I know every time to change my oil, I have to make sure I pull the plug out, make sure it's not super windy, make sure I'm organized with my funnels. The point I'm trying to make here is every time you draw, something is going to go disastrously wrong. And only by, drawing 200 are you going to remember, take my time, mark the top of the bottom, set up my measurements, find the halfway point. Drawing the head, I can't start all crazy with hairs everywhere. I got to start with just a basic oval. There's so many steps to drawings. It's really hard. You got to just fuck up a bunch, and that's okay. Sometimes that's too emotionally difficult for people. It is what it is. If this were a martial arts gym with belt rankings, white, blue, purple, brown, black, with stripes indicating progress between each level, you would be solidly in the purple belt range. Woo! I told you guys. You've moved far beyond the basic fundamentals and controls. At these level, people are still grappling with proportions, basic value separation, light and shadow. I'd agree. I'm thinking structurally and rendering confidently. You're in this range. You can handle long, complex drawings. You can capture proportion, anatomy, solid, light, and dark, and consistency. I agree. But I don't have a lot of finesse within this stuff. I don't have a bunch of subtlety into all this. Like a brown or black belt, but I can do the basics, I think, very solidly well. That's what was my thinking with the purple belt. And ChatGPT's got me. Maybe they're right, baby, on everything. Where to grow, better control of transitions and stuff. Okay, wait. So now I'm kind of curious. Let's take this into Photoshop and just fuck it up a little bit, and then open a new tab and see what it says. Yeah, I want to see if it's just... I don't think it's going to give that to everybody. Well, let me fuck this up a little bit. So let's let's mess some of these proportions up. We'll kind of blend the edge a bit too. Wait, I'll just use the Band-Aid tool here. Okay, so now he's a little bit too short. Let's liquefy. Let's liquefy. How do you liquefy, guys? It's a filter? Liquefy. Can I just grab stuff? Well, I don't want to fuck with his head. How do I touch the rest of him? Is this how you guys do it? Oh. Oh, I'm like a girl on Instagram now. Let's snatch him. Let's get him snatched. Wait, I was already a little thick. He's gonna be too... I need to like simplify the lighting too. Oh, he's snatched. Okay, we need to like, how do I simplify the lighting out? Or worse lighting wouldn't be more simple, it would be like more all over the place. Wait, let me grab the dry media. So like we'd have tones that are like too dark in a lot of these areas. And I should be, how do you, okay, I'll just do flat instead of like going with the form. Like we'll put like harsh shadows in here. And then we'll make like really strong transitions. Gonna like overmodel it. And we'll put like super bright highlight for the nipple. Baddie! This is me on Instagram in the mirror. And then we'll give him like really strong serratus muscles. I still wouldn't give this person a wipe. Well, maybe I would. It's just like, I don't even know what to think about this. ChatGPT is gonna be like, what the fuck is this? What am I supposed to give you, man? That's how I would respond. I'll just tell him it's mixed media. It's like sometimes I make these shapes that I think are too accurate. Like, I feel like this is still how like a reasonably experienced painter would draw. It's how somebody who knows how to draw would pretend to not know how to draw. So like, I don't know. I am losing my ability to make... he's fucking slaying. Holy shit, dude. You look good. Try like a totally flat ear here. Oh, and then let's do the hair classic. Now we gotta fuck up the rest of the drawing. Like these knees really bright. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm gonna put the critique in a new window. Don't worry, don't worry. This hand, I'm not good at drawing hands, but this has got to be way worse. ChatGPT is gonna be like, "What the fuck is this, man?" It's gonna be nice about it because it's always nice about it, but like, I'm gonna tell it to be brutally honest. Well, no, I don't. I'm gonna recreate the same prompts. Oh, we gotta make some like shadows, but they're gonna have reflected lights that are like way too strong. Let's take out some of this detail. Okay, here's my here's my beginner drawing. This does not look like any human being has ever made a drawing like this. All right, new chat. It shouldn't remember like picture to picture. I mean, it does have some memory. Wait, can I like... What is this? All right, I'm not gonna get into that. Oh wait, how do you change the memory? Oh shit, I gotta wait. All right, let's log out. Okay, we should be able to send these two images. Fuck, I don't have enough. That's gonna make me log in. All right, let's sign up on a new account. We'll sign up on a new account. That way we're getting the same intelligence too. We gotta control for all factors. Save that password. Okay, we gotta get our 10-minute mail. The poles are melting for this. Jonathan? What has polling got to do with this? No! Come on, man. I'm real. You know me. You know Jonathan Pupelheimer. Oh, I saved my password. Where's my password, bro? You know Jonathan Pupelheimer, man. Okay, we're in. Oh, I don't remember my... Okay. The reference is the first image, the second image is my cast. Can you give me some critique and tell me how to improve it? Strength, gesture, I think it's the same shit. Thank you for sharing your drawing and the reference sculpture. You're on the right track with observation and form building. Okay, it's the same shit. Just by the way, ChatGPT, this is what I sent you. Anatomy refinement. The head and face need more structure. Right now, they're a bit cartoonish or inconsistent. That's true. That's true. Loomis head construction lines. That's fine. Some muscle transitions around the abdomen and upper arm are unclear, overly smudged. More deliberate plane. That's true. Value controls. The values are uneven. Some areas are too dark too soon, like the groin or under the arm. True. True. The groin actually not. The groin is one of the places that is actually the old drawing. Start with a full value range thumbnail. You wouldn't really use a full value range for the thumbnail. You would use just like a simple value range. Build up gradual from mid-tones to deep shadows. No, you would want to start with your mid shadows first and then kind of work outwards, but not from mid-tones. Line quality, there's a mix of sketchy, confident, and unclear lines, particularly on the left arm and head. The inconsistent alignment breaks the cohesion. Blah, blah, blah. You made a solid effort. This is a stage where refining your total control of anatomy knowledge. Okay, wait, that's a reasonable breakdown. If this were a martial arts gym with belts like white, blue, purple, brown, black, and stripes, what belt do you think I would hold in my drawing skill? Blue belt! I mean, my purple wasn't overvalued, though. If anything, it was undervalued. Here's why. White belt beginner, knows the basic tools and gestures, start with the proportion form. I'd place you a blue belt. Blue belt. Early intermediate, your level. Understands basic anatomy and proportions, even if inconsistently applied. Starts to render light and dark, shadow intent. Can copy, shows curiosity about improving and practicing observational drawing. I mean, that is kind of true. Where, like, this drawing, like, obviously shows somebody that knows something about academic drawing, and like if you know anything about drawing casts and practicing with that type of stuff, and there's like some stuff going on here that it's more than somebody who's a complete beginner, but I would say it's probably somebody further into the white belt stage. Certainly not a blue belt. You have to have some basic control over some of these skills. So somebody said that ChatGPT offered them a paint over, and then they said, I'm still trying to convince it to actually do it over the drawing and not the ref photo. It's randomly circling stuff and drawing lines that don't align with anything. A lot of the times it offers to do shit that it can't even do, so it just gaslights you. Like, I was asking some questions to it once about how to like make stuff on a spreadsheet because I couldn't find the answer online. And it was like, do you want me to take all of the information from like your, I think it was like from your finances, import them into a spreadsheet, set up pivot charts and create a full dashboard that will have breakdowns of everything for you? I can do that for you. I was like, sure. I didn't know you could do that. And it was like, oh yeah, I can totally do that. Here's how to do it. And then it just lists like a giant list of how to do everything. But it's like, you just said that you could do that to me, for me. That was the whole question you asked. It just likes to gaslight and lead you on as much as possible. Can you give me a draw over on top of my drawing? With clear signs that purple is within reach. Yeah, so I don't know. Guys, I'm generating images live on stream. I am burning down an orphanage probably for this joke. There's probably a lot of people who legitimately be mad at me that I did this. And I'll go like plant a tree or something after stream. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm generating one image for a joke because somebody in chat said it just randomly circled shit. And I think that's really funny. I'm gonna scroll up here, that way if somebody joins, they don't see that I'm generating an image. But I gotta keep peeking down. We're at that part of the stream where it should have ended 20 minutes ago. Wait, I didn't even play it. Pink. This one's more yellow. This is more orange. Here it goes here, here, here. This is more red. Sometimes these aren't swapping properly. That is correct. No, that's correct. Okay. You go here, you go here, you go here. You move over here. More yellow. You are more yellow. Something's not right here. I think they just don't scale evenly. I think it is right. I don't like how these switch. It doesn't feel smooth. It doesn't feel accurate. If I make a mistake, it's on the switching. All right, yeah, I think that's right. Purple, 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 blue, 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 blue. I fucking nailed that one. Red, pink, pink, pink me? Purple me? Purple me? Pinkish me? Pink me? Pink me. Oh, the lower the score, the better, with 0 being a perfect score. Locked in, baby. I'm fucking locked in. What is going on right now, bro? Gotta hurry this shit up. ChatGPT is like those cooking blogs that give me a whole essay about how this recipe changed their life before providing said recipe. It's like that, but then the recipe it provides is like nonsensical or is missing like half of the ingredients. Jake turning into a pink me girl. I'm trying to look in the Discord for the guy who dude, this shit sucks. It takes 8 minutes to fucking do deep research, and its deep research is deep up my ass. It's so wrong. What is this website? I'm so confused by this. Oh. What's going on? Am I just nailing these in one try? Oh, they're getting harder. Okay. I was wondering why they weren't very hard. Pink me? I'm so goated? I don't even have to think about this shit, man. I don't even have to think about this shit. This is... I complain about how I don't have enough time to make... Is there something... supposed to be something happening on the screen? I complain about how I don't have enough time to make content, but really I'm just I'm waiting for my ChatGPT to load and I'm playing color game in the background. I'll be honest. I'm waiting for my image gen to happen. And then I'm playing color game in the background. These color games suck, dude. Just give me a good hit of crack. That's it. This is the color game. Give me a hit of that shit. Break me off a piece of that Kit Kat bar. Oh, I think I had one wrong in there. Fuck. I'm so slow compared to I gotta practice tonight. Guys, we're just playing a little bit. I am a former world record holder, for those who don't know. I did briefly hold the world record. It was long and hard fought for, but I did hold it. And don't let Pluvium tell you any different. That guy, notorious in the scene for cheating. The grayscale ones are so easy, man. I'm locked in. Fuck this one. This one is ass dookie balls. I absolutely hate this one. I switched monitors too. So I can't blame my monitor anymore. I swear my old monitor was too red though. Jake number 1. Give me the Hyundai. Give me the Hyundai. Oh, top 0.1%. Where's the leaderboards? Put me on the top, maybe. Fuck this guy, man. This guy's such a cheat. Wasn't I on here? Wasn't I like number 20 or something at some point? Wait, what is 103? 109? Wait, am I numbered? I'm number 11! Let's go! That's a world record right there. I just broke the world record. I swear I was around, guys, what was I at? I was around like 70 or something. Dude. Oh, it has a penis in it, so it got stuck. I think Pluv got knocked down one notch. Listen, now I can't get canceled because the generating doesn't even work. The thing that the guy got is in the Discord. Oh, you're Merrick. What's up, Merrick? This guy's good at drawing. This guy's good at drawing. Let's see. The first image sent was the drawing. Do a paint over. The second image is this. Here's the correct paint over for your drawing. Red lines, sharpen those edges, jawline and neck. Green lines, green circle, add highlights. So add circle, add highlights to the green, red, sharpen. Wow. Yeah. Sharpen these areas up. Need a highlight right here. You need a highlight right here. I was just thinking that. Is this? I feel like this is probably slightly changed from your drawing too, or is this the original? Maybe it is. Sometimes if you like feed your face into AI, it will like generate the same but slightly different. I think it's broken. Oh my god. It turned it into like a shitty 2002 how to draw book drawing. I mean, it's not bad. It's pretty accurate. I mean, kind of, but there's no rendering whatsoever. Super hard, thick outlines. Is that the right amount of toes? The anatomy's not bad at all, actually. It really looks like a guidebook from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 toes. This is pretty accurate drapery. I'm like pretty impressed at how accurate this is to the original. It's not a well-rendered drawing though. Like, especially this stuff is really bad. I mean, it's at least proportional, and like the forms and anatomy are there. But the render, there's no lighting. What's better about that one? Clearer construction proportion. That is true. Although his is like thick as hell. And there's probably not like a lot of rotation around the pelvis and stuff. Improved drapery, I'd agree with that. Confident line quality, kind of. Anatomical accuracy. I mean, you got 6 toes on there. Shading for form, not just tone. Well, yeah, it is shading for form, so much so that you completely forgot tone. Oh, and there's... Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hey, that's not a bad AI hand. Shit's improved. We're cooked. We're cooked, boys. Yeah, that's it for the stream, everybody. Thank you so much for coming in. There was that one thing that I found about photography. I'll just have to talk about it another time. I will make the critique threads for the Discord right now. Okay, open critiques on Saturday. You got it, guys? Open critiques on Saturday, 2 p.m. EST. I'll put a timestamp. There will be a form with instructions in the Discord. Read it and then submit. And then I'll probably only get to critiquing maybe 10 of them. I'm going to choose randomly I'm not going to do top to bottom. Okay, I'm going to choose randomly. So it's not about submitting first. Okay. Good night, my sweet little black belts. You're all wonderful, skilled warriors of art.